Charlie, you said feminism is neutral.
Here's what actually happened.
The foundation of all knowledge.
I'm really mad that
what difference does it make, right? What
Stop.
The deregulation of the industry is obviously going to cause more of that industry.
To lubricate the trust connection between people until they have enough.
Yet we could still look at biological reality in determining who's a female, even if there are.
Why don't you denounce feminism the same way you're denouncing capitalism? If you don't...
For something to be objective, it needs to be verifiable. And you can't verify...
If I make a claim as a political pundit, it is true that I definitely could be wrong. Yeah, you're promoting, right?
Ideology is the main tenet of politics, right? This is my ideology.
But...
So, 2015, anyone go back and watch the footage. The first GOP debate.
Cool, Robert. Oh, that? With a crowbar, you said.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Moderator Monday. I'm super excited to kick this one off. I am Sarah the Raging Tomato, here bringing to you Eli Nix, Steelborn, Ryan the Radical Coder, and of course, Enemy Charlie back for more. Tonight's claim is if morality isn't objective, it's not morality. I'm very interested to get into this debate and hear what they all have to say and see where this conversation goes. Eli, would you kick us off with your opening statement, please?
Absolutely. So I am arguing the affirmative for the proposition, if morality isn't objective, it isn't morality. I will start by defining 3 terms per Oxford Dictionary. First, morality is defined by Oxford as principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior. I believe it is fair to say the word bad could also be replaced with the word evil. Second, objective is defined as not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in concerning and representing facts. Third, subjective is defined as based on or influenced by personal feelings, taste, or opinions. In simpler terms, what is subjective is within the mind, and what is objective is outside of the mind. If morality is a distinction between good and evil per the Oxford definition, then it would follow that distinction within the context of this debate would be the coherent, logical, and justifiable difference between these categories, or in simpler terms, what is in fact moral and what is in fact immoral. If my opponents concede that there is no real distinction between good and evil, then they concede the debate. Morality requires distinction per its definition. No distinction, no morality, hence the prompt. This is exactly where my opponent's position of moral relativity or moral subjectivity fails. If we can define morality as ascertaining the difference between what is moral and what is immoral, and the standard we use to do so is any individual's feelings or opinions, subjectivity, then no particular distinction can be made between 2 competing individuals' moral conclusions. This is not a meaningful distinction at all, but rather an unjustifiable emotional assertion. Now that I have shown the fatal flaw of my opponent's position, I will demonstrate how our position accurately satisfies the requirements within the definition of morality. This is, of course, through an objective standard. When making a distinction between what is a foot and what is an inch, we would use a ruler. When making the distinction between what is hot and what is cold, we would use a thermometer. When making the distinction between a foul play and a fair play on a football field, we would use the rules of football that actually make the game of football and not soccer. Likewise, when it comes to the distinction between good and evil, which is far more important than measurement, temperature, or sports, morality must be determined by a fixed and objective standard in order to make a meaningful real distinction. This now begs the question, where can we we find this objective moral standard? It is the belief of myself and my teammate that this standard is given to mankind through the divine revelation of Christianity, specifically the Holy Orthodox Church. I'm aware that there are different faiths in history that propose competing moral standards, and to that I would say that in the same way competing scientific theories of gravity do not disprove gravity, disagreements on the true revelation of the moral standard do not disprove the existence of the moral standard. I'm happy to discuss with my opponents what makes Christianity the true faith of the true God as opposed to others, once they concede that if morality isn't objective, it is not morality. In conclusion, I would like to discuss what it means to make an ought from an is. Concerning good and evil, if you say one ought to do good and one ought not to do evil, you must be able to objectively define what those things are in order to make the why behind your ought prescription meaningful, justified, and grounded. Citing evolutionary human cooperation and generalized civil progress tells me what is the case with human behavior, not why it ought to be that way. This is the is-ought distinction, something that their pseudo-morality cannot account for. Finally, I will say, I think it would be much more intellectually honest of my opponents to admit that things like morality, good, and evil do not actually exist, but are just social constructs we subjectively apply to survive, which I'm sure they will say, but they will still call it morality. That is why I am here to show that without an objective standard, it is not morality by its own definition. That's my
Thank you, Eli. I appreciate that. Steelborn, to you, sir.
Yeah, so morality is quite simply defined as a system of code or conduct that distinguishes between right and wrong or good and bad behavior. The question of tonight's debate is simply this: if there is, or is there an objective standard to what is considered acceptable and unacceptable behavior for humans to engage in? If so, what is the nature of this standard? From my opponent's perspective, morality is simply a set of preferences, thing that they would prefer people do or do not do. They have no system for why they prefer these things, which will ultimately make their preferences arbitrary. Our position is different. We have a moral system that is unchanging, unwavering, and justifiable. From our perspective, unaliving, grape, necrophilia, these are all objectively wrong always. They can't make that same claim. So I would just pose a simple question to my opponents. Is it always wrong to grape? If the answer is no, well, we know where that leads us. If the answer is yes, now you're pointing to an objective standard that exists outside of whatever the heck you care about or whatever you think. With that, I am happy to concede the rest of my time, and I can't wait to watch these two spurg about that question.
Thank you, Steelborn. Ryan, sir, to you, please.
Fantastic. So the claim tonight seems quite simple. If morality is not objective, it's not morality, but that simplicity is, of course, a trap. If morality is objective, it must be mind independent, like gravity or the speed of light, and that's what objectivity means. It's true regardless of context, feeling, or culture. But morality doesn't work like that. It is inherently relational. It only becomes meaningful through feeling, harm, repair, and choice. If it were truly objective, then we wouldn't need to feel, reflect, or listen. We just need to obey, which is exactly what they're proposing to you. Now, I'm not saying morality is groundless. We do have universal foundations, as they mentioned, evolved pro-social traits like empathy and mutuality, as a term that Charlie brought to my attention. They exist because social animals survive by caring for each other and cooperating. That's why we have the capacity for morality at all. But capacity is not the same as fixed cosmic moral code. Applying these traits is always a human process, shaped by culture, history, and power. And history proves the danger of treating these human codes as if they are objective law. Claims to objective morality have justified slavery, they've justified sexism, they've justified homophobia, and they've also justified all of the horrible things that they described in their, or that Steele just described in his opening. All defended as moral truths. And when people resisted, they were told that they were the immoral ones for daring to challenge the objective, quote unquote, standard. So no, claims of objectivity haven't protected us. They've silenced us. They've ended the conversations before they could begin. Subjective morality isn't chaos or relativism. It means we take responsibility. We argue, we revise, we listen. We treat ethics as a living practice, not a static law. It's rooted in our shared instincts, but it stays moral by staying responsive to harm. If morality must be objective to be real, then we lose the very thing that makes it moral, the ability to change, to respond, to care. Morality doesn't need to be objective. It just needs to be human. It needs to be ours, and that's not a weakness. That is exactly the strength that makes it work.
Thank you, Ryan. And Miss Charlie, to you, my dear.
Sorry, my statement is much less developed. I saw Jesus Christ Superstar last night, and, well, I've just been thinking about it. Anyway. So good. Anyway, I'm agreeing with Ryan 100% here. I do think that morality is a human construct that is dependent on culture and personal experience. The only thing objective about morality is that it is based on pro-social traits like empathy, compassion, and mutuality, which we have evolved to have as a species to further our survival because we are social animals. Morality is an expression of these traits. And I do think that morality evolves when our application of empathy broadens. And I do think that the application of empathy is culture dependent and also changes over time, which is why our moral codes change over time. And I think that the best example of this that I could give would be probably children's rights. There was the construct of childhood as a time period in which children should be protected is a fairly new one. We used to let 5-year-olds, die in coal mines. We no longer do. Our morality has changed. It's evolved. We have broadened our empathy to include children and to honor the childhood experience. And as far as we're talking about Christianity, as I recall, there's a good number of times in which children are killed. I do think at the behest of God. It's been a while since I've been to Bible school, but I do think that there were some child sacrifices going on. Anyway, that's all I got for now.
Perfect. Thank you, Charlie. And as a kind reminder to the audience, we're going to get through our debate. We will move into closing statements, and then we will read and respond to your kind super chats. After that, of course, for those of you who want to come on and play as well, we will move into open panel dumpster fire shortly after. So stick around if you have something to say. Outside of that, lady and gentlemen, I leave the floor open to you.
Yeah, Ryan, if morality is just a result of evolution, can you explain to me how that makes any sense if evolution is a mechanical tool or mechanical process that is designed towards survival, not towards finding the truth? So basically what the actual question I would ask you is, can you have a true or false mechanism?
We have a true or false mechanism. I think we have instincts about what is true or false. I would defer to if we look at the rules of logic, right, or the laws of logic as they're normally named. These aren't like facts of the universe inherently. These are basically like descriptive understandings of the limits of human comprehension. At the end of the day, they are feelings. Like when you can't comprehend the idea that something is true and false, it's because you feel frustrated, right? You can't even find possible any way to combine these things.
Can fire be hot and cold at the same time?
It can be. I mean, relative, right? Like it would be cold compared to lava, but it's not. It's hot compared to ice.
I mean, if you stick your hand in there, is it going to feel like ice and fire at the same time?
Well, relative to me, it's hot. So I mean, at least pretty, for some degree.
Yeah, let's just assume for a second. If I recall correctly, steel melts at about 2,600 degrees. So, was steel going to melt at 10 degrees?
I don't think so. I don't think it will. I mean, unless you change the system you're measuring with. But no, I don't think so.
Let's just go with Fahrenheit to keep it consistent.
I think, like I said, no.
Okay, so it will melt at 2,600 degrees, or it will not melt at 2,600 degrees, but it can't do both.
Sure. Relevance?
Yeah, this would point to the fact that it's unchanging and it's subjective at that point, and it doesn't matter what you think of the scenario or however you evolved and what kind of empathy you feel towards the steel. It's still going to melt.
Yeah, but there's nothing moral about the morality would come into whether or not you decide to melt the steel.
You say the morality is just a result of evolution. Evolution is just mechanical.
Well, steel is not a thinking, feeling being. I mean, I think that we could maybe talk about a burning rabbit. If
neither is a butterfly.
Burned a rabbit alive, I think that a butterfly's alive for sure.
Yeah, but it's not thinking.
I mean, I think that also depends. Do we know if butterflies can think in some way? I think it's alive.
I wouldn't disagree that it's alive, but what does that have to do with whether or not it's capable of, making moral decisions?
Oh no, a butterfly can't make a moral decision, but I think that we can observe that a butterfly suffers.
By what standard?
Yeah.
Writhing.
The butterflies hurt. So if I walk over and I just I squash the little thing, right? And it's just lights out. It's Does the butterfly feel I have wronged it in some way?
No, but I do think that other human beings, dependent on culture, actually, the whether or not, I think this is also another argument for moral relativism, but we humanize animals to varying degrees based upon how much we identify with these animals, and it changes from culture to culture. Now, in the West, if you kick a dog, if you beat a dog to death, people will think you are the spawn of the devil. I think that if I showed you guys a video of a dog being kicked, you guys would cry. It would make you very upset. However, I think that in cultures where dogs don't really matter that much, they are either tools or nuisances. I do think, my goodness, my friend showed me a video of a wet market in China where golden retriever puppies were being sold to Eden. Now, a person from that area of China might be like, yeah, whatever, it's meat. All of us would probably be like, oh my God, a golden retriever. So again, this is an interesting question. I do think that in our American culture, we don't really value the lives of bugs that much. We don't. However, we are creeped out by people who torture insects.
We're not creeped out by people who torture animals. Not even close.
We are, because it implies other antisocial behaviors generally.
Really?
Yes.
Doesn't? How about when we're doing?
It is a predictor for antisocial behaviors in the future. This is a well-known fact that torturing
research
does. Torturing.
Do you think that animals aren't subjected to torture when we do like medical research on them?
They can be.
There's a lot of movements actually out there to stop the harm of animals based on on medical research.
Well,
and also when
people?
we eat them. It depends on what degree. Are they consenting to such an experiment?
I would imagine most people who would be willing to go through that kind of subjugation can't properly consent.
It also depends on experiment. Like if I sign up for a drug trial, like let's say I sign up for a drug trial to, my goodness, I don't know, maybe I want my eyebrows to get even bigger. And I sign up for a drug trial for a drug that's like, this will make your eyebrows bigger. Let's see if it does. Am I being tortured? No.
Well, no, but that's because we've already probably put, like bunnies and dogs and rats and chimpanzees and every other thing you could think of through that same exact, and giving them those same exact drugs to see what it did to them before we gave it to you, to make sure that, your eyeballs didn't explode when you took it.
This is in fact a source of constant debate. I will say that actually animal rights are pretty far behind, and I do wonder often in the future.
Where are we going to stop with the animal rights then? What are we going to arrest the bear for eating a salmon?
Well, I think this is kind of the whole thing, is that we don't have these are things that are constantly evolving and being debated over time. We're having conversations about them. We're reflecting on them. We're listening to people who have different perspectives on them, and we're deciding where do we want to land. And I think this is just the evolution of morality, all throughout history, has been exactly what I just described.
Well, Ryan, I want to touch on that because you said that logic is a feeling, right? So is it a feeling the same way that morality is a feeling?
I think it's rooted in feelings in a similar way. Although there are practical ways that logic manifests, like in a computer, we have on and off switches, right? And these things are fundamentally they can't be in both. Although when you get into quantum computing, this is a little bit more chaotic. But in general, computers can't be an on and off switch at the same. They can't be in both states at the same time. So it's logically impossible. Sure. And that kind of aligns with our logical intuition. But it's still it is our intuition that we're referring to.
This leads me to my next question. Do you think that humans invented logic or discovered logic?
I'd say both.
Both.
I would say same thing for math.
So you think we invented and discovered math? So humans came up with math.
Yeah, we observe things in reality, and then we create language to approximate what we're viewing.
We created the language, but did we create math? I'm not talking about the language that describes math. I'm talking about math itself.
I'm just as a lifelong math fan. I view math as a word for the language of mathematics, of that thing. What's what we're referring to? It is the language of numbers and these things that we give.
Right, but we didn't invent mathematics.
These structures. It's an interesting question. I don't know that it has. There probably are some interesting parallels here, but could you maybe draw what you're getting at?
Yeah, mathematics is a transcendental category.
it's a universal category specifically. So it's something that if you say that logic is just a feeling, and then that would imply that humans came up with it, that means that we could change it. Okay, and the implication that this evolved with us over time is saying that, you know, at one point it didn't exist till humans got the capacity to come up with it and feel it, and then it came into existence. From our perspective,
no, sorry.
This is
What
something
I'm
that
saying
has
is
an ontological
go ahead.
existence that we actually discovered and then created a language to describe that discovery, and that makes it have an actual ontological presence. So that's why it's important to understand your position.
I guess my issue is, number one, I'm hesitant to believe that you can identify that source that you're alluding to. But I would say we evolved and increased our capacity to represent the phenomenon we were describing. Like we've increased our ability to abstract it, to give structure to it, and then to apply it in our lives. And that's I think again that's very similar to what we've been doing with morality.
I did want to pose a question after you guys are done having this exchange. Is the exchange done?
Well, I just wanted to say, he's just said, describe the phenomena. So the phenomena is not tied to us being able to describe it. It's basically the question of, would logic and math still exist if humans weren't there to make propositions about it? Like, are you a nominalist, for example, would be the direct question.
I don't know that term in particular, but it sounds like possibly. I mean, I don't believe
believe that there are universal categories. That universal categories is just everything is sense data, basically. Everything that
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for me to make sense of anything that isn't based on sense data.
Like,
I don't know how to comprehend.
Would the
I don't know how to
tree still be a
conceptualize
tree
anything
if there were no
that isn't,
humans
you know?
left?
It would still be something. I don't know if we like there's a lot of things attached to calling it a tree, but yeah, it'd still be something.
I think when I say the tree, I'm not talking about the word tree. I'm talking about the concept that I'm trying to that I'm relating to you with the word tree. If all the humans just suddenly disappeared tomorrow,
yeah, I think it would still be
they
there.
just like vaporize, right? That tree that's sitting there, that would still be a tree. It would still be what it is, right?
Yeah, there'd still be a thing.
So
there.
I
Law
feel
of
like
identity is not dependent upon human minds.
So I do feel like, out of curiosity, I want to push it back on you guys a little bit. When do we find the objective moral doctrine? When do we find it? If this is something that even within your church, which is, again, you guys are Orthodox Christians, I believe. Why is this particular religion the correct one? Why is this particular denomination the right one? And why is your specific individual interpretation of these texts the correct one? Where do we find objective morality? When do we locate it? If it's a source of, if it's also like, if you're debating it constantly, when do you get there? Will we never, ever get there? Will we always be debating what what is objectively moral? Will we get there? When do we get there?
No, I think
I would want to say first and foremost that, as I said in my opening statement, I would get into the truth and the revelation of Christianity once I get the concession that morality can't be obtained without an objective standard to make the distinction within the definition. So what I will say is that it doesn't matter where you source your objective standard. It does matter because there's one that's true, but it doesn't disprove the need for an objective standard in order to have morality. So there are many different cultures and many different ways that can apply an objective standard. Some are correct and some are incorrect. But I'm not trying to. I hate when people answer a question with a question. But this was all dependent on first understanding that morality can't happen absent an objective standard, because ultimately without one, it's just coming down to your preference, which, I've seen in other debates with objective morality with some people on the panel. Those questions don't get answered through your paradigm. So that would be, I know it's probably not a good thing to answer a question with a question, but before we get there, we have to determine whether or not morality must have a standard. Then we can get into who has the true standard.
So I would say that, again, going back to my opening statement, Brian's opening statement, again, I do think that morality is formed by our pro-social traits, which we did evolve to have as human beings because we're social animals. And those traits are essentially empathy, compassion, mutuality. So empathy is, being able to feel what other people are going through. It is looking at another human being, seeing them as a human being and thinking, wow, I wouldn't like that, or I would like that if I was in their shoes. And I think that most everyone, there are individuals without this capacity, but we typically view them as aberrant. And typically these sorts of people, they might be people that we diagnose with things like antisocial personality disorder, are less likely to reproduce because of the violence and danger they pose to society. But even supposing you are someone who is incapable of, you don't have a very broad sense of empathy. This is actually, I do think there was a study done that observed that many conservatives tend to have a very small circle of individuals that they are able to have empathy for, which is typically people who look like them, share the same culture, and
we have a phrase for this. It's called
I'm not
ordo
done speaking.
amores. Sorry.
It's okay. And then people who are more left-leaning typically have a much broader application of empathy. They can empathize with people who are unlike them. So there could be some maybe conservative Christians who might look at, maybe homosexuals or transgender people and have very little empathy for them. They are not able to apply their empathy to them. However, what might prevent them, these people who are homophobic or transphobic from being violent towards, discriminate against, would be mutuality. These people would understand that to live in a peaceful society and to continue to exist in this world, essentially, that they, need to not do shitty and awful things that will result in punishment for them. And that's how I would say, that is, I suppose, our objective basis for morality is our empathy, our ability to humanize and feel for others, and our desire to live amongst other human beings. And this is an instinctual thing. This is something that is very, advantageous to us.
Okay, so with all that being said, you've mentioned, evolutionary traits. You've mentioned cooperation, empathy, a better, more peaceful society. All of these are rooted in is claims. This is going back to the is-ought distinction. So first, within the definition of morality, which is a distinction between good and evil, would you say that we use morality to tell you why you ought to do something, that there is an ought in between good and evil, right? Like you ought to do good over doing evil. Okay, so everything you've given is an is claim, not an ought claim. So when you bring up empathy, why should we be empathetic? When you bring up a more peaceful society, why ought we have a more peaceful society? You can explain the is of our evolution, our traits, our biology, what we're more prone to do. But if you look at anti-natalist philosophies who say it's actually immoral to bring children into the world and to reproduce as a species, on what basis are you telling them that they're wrong without self-referencing your own personal opinion? Because I think it's pretty easy to demonstrate, and I really don't want to get into it. But if you're just comparing opinions, you don't have shit. That's my whole basis for this, is that if morality just comes down to a comparison of opinions, you might as well just throw it out, because then you're getting into the whole force doctrines thing, appeal to consensus fallacy, and it doesn't give you an ought from an is. So with all those things as your standard for morality, where do you derive your oughts from?
My oughts, well, again, based on mutuality and greater empathy, I do think that there are individuals who have broad applications of empathy.
I don't mean to interrupt, but why ought we have empathy? Like, again, you're citing empathy,
so that we can continue to survive. I mean, empathy is correct, but
why ought we survive?
Do we need empathy to survive? Is the better
No,
question.
why ought we survive? Why are the anti-natalists wrong, and we shouldn't actually just not reproduce because human existence is not a good thing? Why ought we survive?
I don't feel any obligation to justify that to anyone. Like the idea that I think most people want to survive. I don't feel like my need to survive. I have to I'm never gonna have to convince. If we're at a point where I have to convince you that I want to survive, and we're like debating about whether my survival, I'm probably in a situation where I'm just gonna have to defend myself anyway. It doesn't matter. Like it sounds like it's somebody, like we're in a situation where violence is probably going to be.
Question. It was more like a why ought humanity?
Sorry. To address the question more specifically, like when we talk about the is ought distinction in this context, we're talking about what we are talking about things we want. I was talking about outcomes we want, what we should do with respect to outcomes we desire. So if we do. Anybody. So
But we want different outcomes. So who's up
And if you disagree, then that's fine. But like, and hopefully enough people will want to stop you from disagreeing with like the idea that most people want to survive, right? Hopefully we have a society that will prevent you from taking. Hang on. Hopefully we'll have a society that will prevent you from taking people's lives all willy nilly, because we most of us here, and maybe you disagree, but most of us here would agree that would be a worse society, right? And we don't want to live in that situation. So we are going to set up structures like police and like self-defense weapons and stuff where we can stop people, like hypothetically, you obviously not, I presume not you literally.
Well, so this is what you're doing is the appeal to consensus. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in fallacies. I don't want to do that whole thing, but I would think this is fallacious, because you're having this presupposition that we all have the same ideas, universal ideas. Okay.
Well, we want to survive. As long as enough people want to survive, then we're going to do it. That's the problem.
Well,
explicitly, literally, I'm not saying that because everyone agrees on it, because there's a consensus. What I'm saying is that we need enough people who agree, which I think we have. I think we have enough people who agree and want to live in that society. And again, if there are people who don't want to live in that society and they're going to act on that, then I think we have enough people to prevent them from doing so.
Well, that's still just a descriptor, dude. That's just saying people want to survive.
We can observe that people do not want to die. Why they want to survive?
No, not why they want to. No,
I would want to ask, why do you want to survive, particularly?
I'm gonna get some water.
I personally enjoy being alive. And I do think that most people enjoy being alive. We have,
I want to be alive.
So many mechanisms in our body to prevent us from dying. Our blood clots. We create white blood cells to prevent us to fight off illness. We have a desire as a species to survive. It's an innate desire.
Well, this is the low-hanging fruit. This is the low-hanging fruit of the conversation, but I'm just going to go right for the jugular, and I hope that Ryan, Radical Coder, can hear me. But, within the objective morality debate, you always hear about World War II and Nazi Germany, okay? Yes, everybody may have an inner inclination to survive. That's the is statement. But maybe what survival looks like between different individuals is going to be different. It's going to be subjective. Some people want their group of people to survive and not other people's. Some people want to survive on a certain system that would put somebody else down. In World War II, the Nazis wanted an area where everybody survived at the expense of Jews and gypsies and undesirables. So whenever you say things like we all kind of agree that we all kind of generally want to survive, if they had won and they were the majority, and hey, we all kind of agree that the Jews should have been gassed in the Holocaust, where does your perspective derive the ought claim that no, we ought not to have done that? Based on what? Because everything you're citing has been consensus and subjective feelings, the same consensus and subjective feelings that the Nazis had when they committed their atrocities.
I would say that, again, I think that the end goal is to broaden our application of empathy as much as we can. Now,
you think that, but the Nazis didn't. I'm sorry that, and again,
the Nazis had a very limited application of empathy. They had a very limited application of empathy, which is antisocial behavior. And
why is not being empathetic antisocial?
Why is being unempathetic antisocial?
Yeah, you're gonna have to justify that. I think you can be very social without being an empathetic person.
So, I can use, you don't necessarily have to be empathetic if you are able to operate on the logic of survival. However, empathy, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I said,
do you know what your question was?
I'm actually trying to remember. I just had I had a total brain fart.
Let me stop in there real quick and just say that, you're citing empathy as if it's a good thing without telling us why it's a good thing. You're saying the Nazis were unempathetic and antisocial. Why is that bad?
That was my question. Yeah.
Look at the reaction of the world, which was
okay. What if the reaction of the world was that it was good?
Well, we can live in Fantasyland, but we have to live in the real world, and we can observe. We can observe that when large populations
was it the real world in Germany whenever
people,
the majority of the population took up that consensus?
Yes, it was absolutely the real world, but it was also a fact that individuals with a broader application of empathy in Nazi Germany were against this, and it is a fact that many people around the world with a broader application of empathy were against what the Nazis were doing. And now, again, we can observe the consequences of antisocial behaviors. I would say I
Is
can
that why you
use.
think we went to war with Germany? Was because we
No, I
felt
don't think it was
empathetic?
to save the Jews. I don't think it was.
Okay, I was like, no, that's definitely not. what we
no,
went.
no,
We
no.
went we went for
I'm
money.
very.
This is getting again, but still telling us that there is a broader application of empathy doesn't tell us why we should have a broader application of empathy. You're just stating an is and not an ought.
Not only that, you haven't actually justified the Nazis didn't feel incredibly empathetic and just want to put them out of their misery as they pulled the lever. And they just felt really, really bad for them. They empathized with them, but all the suffering
Well,
they
I
had to
think
go
that
through.
Again, it's
what's
coming
your
down
name?
to your
What is
subjective
this
view of
guy's-
what
is
empathy
the guy
is.
with no beard
Adam,
saying?
is it?
Which one's Adam and which
Adam?
one's Eli?
Adam.
Adam.
Eli.
Okay. I mean, Adam, I think that we could also just, read the writing of the many Nazi SS officers
you?
as well as their
Have you?
individuals advocating. I have actually. I was
No.
reading through Male Fantasies by the book is
None of
over
this
there. I could
tells
run
us
and go
why
get
they
it.
were wrong. And
Well,
the things
he
that
asked
you're
me why. He asked me why.
I was just curious if she read the writing or not, because I haven't.
Yeah.
I don't
have,
want to
and
move
yes,
on
there-
until
there
I
is
get an
indeed
answer of why it is wrong.
Why is it wrong?
Without just citing a thing that you thus have to explain
well,
why
would
that
be
is good.
dependent upon my moral code and my broad application
Right.
of
So
empathy.
again, now you
However,
have become
Eli, why would it be wrong to you? And you cannot advocate that this is Christian doctrine because, again, I mean, there were many Nazis
this is
that
a
were
comparison
Christian.
of worldviews. In my worldview, it is because
Uh-huh.
people are made in the image of God and they have a divine source of dignity. In your worldview, you're citing things like evolutionary empathy, and we kind of have these traits, and none of that actually
Okay,
gives
so
a
Eli, what
justified
about
Nazis did
why
as well
behind
to
the
just
why.
hate those people?
Eli, what about pedophiles? Aren't they
Oh.
not
What about
made in
them?
the image of God?
PDF.
Yeah. Okay. So what does that have to do with anything?
I mean, what do you think?
Didn't they evolve to be like that?
We have a. Do you think we have a?
We have a
duty
moral
to
obligation to
let
punish them to the fullest extent of the law.
But why? They're made in the image of God.
Yes, because they violated
Human dignity.
they violated the innocence given to a child that is also given to them by God. Our standard comes from a place outside
Okay, so
of
why
ourselves.
does the child's innocence? Why does that matter more than the human dignity of the PDF file?
Because he forfeited his dignity by committing those sins.
Did he though? I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like when I read the Bible, there were a
At
lot
least
of
as far as
instances of, like,
opening himself
was
up
it not
to
in
the
Sodom and
consequences of
Gomorrah
his
where
actions.
this it was a father that gave up his teenage daughters to be assaulted by PDF files, and this was a godly thing for him to do. Is that not like
That's
a real life thing that happened? Was that not in the Bible?
Well, again,
It wasn't Sodom and Gomorrah. at the
We're-
very
we're not
least.
gonna
Sodom
get
and
into
Gomorrah
an
was the whole town of
exegesis
people
until
trying
we
to grape
can-
angels.
Go ahead, Adam.
It was Sodom and Gomorrah was a whole town of people trying to grape angels.
Right, and so there was who was the man that brought the angels into his home and then offered up his teenage daughters to be raped instead?
I don't think that was Sodom and Gomorrah, but I'm also horrible with names. Eli would probably know better than I would.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to get into exegesis until we, like I
Yeah, I
said,
can
we
pull
can
it
at
back.
least confirm and whether or not the moral standard exists. And here's the thing. This is a comparison of worldviews. Whenever I speak of divine dignity, we don't do this because we are violating, the image of God made in another person. We do these things because we believe that good, when we talk about the distinction between good and evil, has an ontological source. In your worldview, good can be different. Good and evil can actually be interchanged depending on who you're talking about. What's evil to one person could be good to another. So how do we develop a meaningful distinction that doesn't just come back to, like you said, my moral code? Now, all of a sudden, you're the arbiter of everything that is moral. And if somebody else comes up and says, well, hey, according to my moral code, you're wrong, you don't have a standing of which to tell them why they are.
So just to be
Well, then
clear, in
you have to
reality,
you have to negotiate this. But I would also say, Eli, you're making the affirmative
want to.
claim here, and I don't think that it's possible here to. I do think that if you want to prove that morality is objective, you are going to have to justify your more objective.
Yeah, let's start with this
morality.
truth objective.
Like you need to justify why your moral code is the objective and true one when it
Well,
is again
no, that's
literally
actually not
just
required based on the prompt.
it's a very specific religion that the majority of the world doesn't follow. It's a very specific denomination that the majority of Christians do not follow, and you are also interpreting it based on your subjective life experience
No,
and whoever the
just because-
subjective life experience of people that you are listening to. in addition, you have agreed that there are people who debate what the true moral objective code should be of this religion. So again, if you have to debate it, how can it be objective if it must be debated? Do you think that there is an
so gravity
ephemeral
doesn't
sort of-
exist because there's differentiating opinions on the theory of gravity? That's where you're going
Well,
with
that's not what I said at all. And you are talking
That's
about
literally
a
what
human
you, that's
construct.
what you just
Gravity
said.
is
You
not
said that
really
if we have to
a
debate this,
construct.
then it can't be objective. And
Yeah, but we
that's
have
the
ways
exact
to prove
opposite.
gravity exists. We don't have ways to prove that your, objective moral code, which is a subsection of Christian orthodoxy.
We do.
which you
and
can
again,
only
that's-
interpret through your subjective personal lens.
there's
Like, how do you-
Additionally, when we debate about gravity, sorry, real quick, when we debate about gravity, we do have debates about gravity and the nature of gravity. Like, we observe specific things that we label gravity, but we have debates about the causes. We have debates about even like specific functions and like how it moves in or how it works in different scenarios. Like, we have different conversations about this, and that's how we developed a more abstract, like improved theory of it through those conversations, like through debating them and through understanding and through different perspectives.
Sure, but the fact that there is debates, hold on. The fact that there is debates does not disprove the existence of gravity, and that's where you were trying to go when you said there's debates about religion, therefore how can there then there can't be an objective moral standard. Now, I
think what she was getting at is more specific. Like when she brought up some of the Nazis were Christians, like a lot of them believed a very similar thing to you outlined, as that humans have this objective value or whatever. But they just decided that Jews and gypsies and homosexuals and disabled people, they just didn't have that, or they didn't deserve that. Those selected people, they didn't have this trait that they deemed the humanity thing. So they just shrunk the list of people who were, or the set of people who this applied to. But they're still like using your objective standard. They're just applying it.
Hold on a second. Ryan,
a misapplication of the standard. A misapplication to standard does not disprove the standard.
Yeah, Ryan, somebody totally agrees with every prescription that you would ever make, and they agree with every descriptor you would ever make, except their favorite thing to do is drown puppies. That's their like most favorite thing to do. But everything else they like 99.9% agree with you on.
They better stay away from my puppy.
Well, here's what I'm asking. We're just going to call this Ryan's ethics, right? That's right. This person is following Ryan's ethics.
Then he wouldn't do that.
No. Just because he violated Ryan's ethics, does that mean Ryan ethics don't exist?
My feelings about ethics would still exist, sure.
Yeah, I'm saying so. I say he chose you to.
But they still be my feelings, just like it is your feeling that you want.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Can I? Because
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
going to as a callback to what Andrew Wilson did to me. I'm going to demonstrate gravity.
Thank you.
Right now. Can you demonstrate God to me?
Yeah, I can actually.
Yes.
Because I've had people trying to demonstrate God to me my entire life, and it's never really stuck the way gravity has.
Yeah, you can't have
It's a law
knowledge
that I am
absent God.
subject to.
Yeah,
You
it's
can't-
the
so you
impossibility
cannot-
of the contrary, and that it's
So you
the
can't
transcendental
prove
argument
it.
for God. This was brought up to you once again before in Andrew's debate. There are lots of philosophical evidences for God due to the impossibility of the contrary. However, like I said, I want to press you guys on how, without an objective standard, you can't. Before we get into where the objective standard is sourced in, I want to pin you down on the fact that you can't have an objective standard, or I'm sorry, you can't not have an objective standard and it still be morality. You guys still have not answered how, when somebody uses the same principle. Hold on. Let me finish, please. Whenever somebody uses the same standard as you, which is ultimately my subjective moral code, how do you make the distinction, which I cited in my opening statement, is required within the definition of morality, a distinction? How do you make a distinction between whose moral conclusion is right if we use your standard?
It would again have to depend upon a negotiation of our own moral codes, which we do all the time in
I
society.
didn't say negotiation, I said a distinction.
We would have to negotiate.
Let her respond.
What would happen is that we would have two different moral codes that we would have to negotiate to live in a society together. This is how we exist together as human beings. And I do think that this ought to be the way that it is. I do like that we negotiate our morality. I think it is.
What if
good.
they
We should
negotiate and they come to the
continue
wrong
do this.
agreement?
Yeah, what
What if they
come to the
negotiate and they
wrong
come to the wrong
agreement?
agreement? Yeah.
They just
Well,
How would
they
you
would
know if they did or
continue
didn't?
According to you.
It would be, well, yeah, by whose standards is it wrong? It would, of course, be
exactly.
their
Like if they
own-
let
the
gay people
question.
get married, then it would be against your standard,
Maybe,
right? But
maybe.
it wouldn't be ours.
against your
No.
standard. It would
She
be
just
wrong
asked the
to
question
you.
of the
Hold
night.
on. Settle down.
Sorry.
Settle down.
Okay. Well, that was the question of the night. By whose standards would we find it? That's exactly what we're asking you, because you're the one saying that there isn't one.
But you are also making the affirmative claim that morality is objective. And so again, like, you cannot expect.
Yes.
Yeah, is Grape always wrong?
You just asked, where's the standard?
Eli, Adam, like, I need you guys to understand that when you make the claim that you two somehow uniquely amongst human beings, this small, tiny group of Orthodox Christians that probably belong to a very, very small subsect of other Orthodox Christians, because I know that in Orthodox Christianity, there's a lot of priests that are upset about kind of the online ortho bros. So even like the mainline church might not like what you guys do and might not like you. Why do you two have access to this objective moral truth, this moral code that the rest of us do not? What is it unique and special about you that has given you access? Why are you better than me, and why are you better than everyone else? Why
Nobody's saying that we're better
Why
than
do
you.
you
That's a
have the
straw man,
arrogance to
and that's
believe that you
ridiculous.
know what God believes?
You could have the same revelations if you removed your precondition that it absolutely cannot be God. I would say in the same way that you would call a Christian closed-minded, I say that a secularist is equally as closed-minded, because you are backwards reasoning all your
Eli,
conclusions
I'm
that it
agnostic.
absolutely cannot be God.
Eli,
I don't
I'm
care.
All right, hold on.
because I
This is
don't
the
think
actual
that
question that's going to
Look,
put the
I
pin
don't
in
think
your
that the
argument.
existence of God can be
Settle
proven or
down.
disproven. So I'm an agnostic. You cannot claim that I'm an atheist
Can-
when I'm agnostic.
If
Can I
is
ask-
Grape always wrong, Charlie?
Yes.
Even if like, you weren't here to tell people that it was wrong?
I do believe that we have a society that has decided that it is wrong because it is an anti-social
That's just an
behavior.
appeal to consensus.
However, I want to be clear that under Christianity, especially like what I've heard a lot of Orthodox Christians talk about, they actually exclude things that I would identify as grape, as you say. Like they exclude like marital spousal grape, right? Like they actually don't believe that's even a real thing.
So,
And I would think that's immoral, but under I mean I've heard I think Andrews even said that like he actually wouldn't
was
even
literally
consider that
only
grape.
in
You
the
heard it from a
90s?
guy. You've heard it from a
That
guy. You heard it from a
marital
guy. That's the
rape
most
became
ridiculous thing I've ever. That's
No, I
not
mean, Andrew,
good.
Can I
he's one of
ask
the
a
spokespeople of
question
this
to
philosophy
the
online.
panel?
That is such
I
a
don't
straw man
know
and
if
disingenuous.
I don't know if we actually like really answered this. I think Eli and Adam, I think you are solid on it in terms of what you believe. But Ryan and Charlie, do you think that morality is measurable? Like, is there a tool to measure morality?
I would say that morality is the measure of morality is very, very, very much contextual. Amongst my circles, I would be considered a very moral person. I'm certain amongst Eli and Adam's circles, I would be considered the whore of Babylon because I am pro premarital sex, pro abortion. I am queer. I've had gay sex. Love trans people. I love immigrants, undocumented and documented. I would be considered Satan
How
himself.
many more talking points are you going
Based.
to blabber about?
It's all right. I asked
I
the
don't think
question.
that's a good. Like,
She's answered.
what are
She
you
answered it,
talking
but then
about?
also is
I
giving
was
an
asked a
example of
question.
what she was
Yes, I
talking
was giving
about.
an example.
She's
Again,
giving a lot
so
of presuppositions
measure-
about Christians without knowing anything about
No,
them. But
she's
that's okay.
she's
Well,
using
I mean, are you guys
the scale.
pro-abortion?
What she's giving you is a scale right now, which you could use to your advantage if you were smart enough. Ryan,
was
do you
about to, yeah.
believe it's measurable in terms of morality? Is there a metric we can utilize or a tool to measure morality?
It depends on what we mean by tool. I think there are frameworks for evaluating, and we can and again, it comes down to like reflection and listening and talking through these things and feeling through these things. I think that's fundamental to the human experience. I think that's just how we go through and have these conversations in real life. We don't sit here and debate about what the objective fact of the universe is. We don't appeal to some metaphysical unknown or known. We don't. This just isn't practical. This isn't how people engage in real life. We just engage. We have empathy. We engage with people based on that. And if we don't have the empathy and if we react in ways that show that we don't have that empathy, then we're going to run into trouble in life. Oftentimes, like people who don't experience empathy tend to have more, not just antisocial behaviors. And you can argue about whether or not they're identified antisocial behaviors. They're definitionally antisocial behaviors, but you can argue with those definitions. But like there are situations that you're going to get yourself in that you're going to be frustrated with. You're going to have problems in your life, right? You're going to have more problems if you engage in a lot of antisocial ways than if you don't.
You would say you would be more agreeable to a sliding scale.
Sure, you
Movable.
can call it that. Or it feels even weird to call it a scale. Like it's not limited to any limiting it to specific dimensions like breaks even like what I'm proposing is being open-minded enough to understand when someone comes in and presents a view of morality that you never considered before, and thinking, wow, maybe there's a harm in a dimension that I hadn't really even thought about, and yeah, maybe I do need to consider that. I do need to weave that into my moral framework. And I think so. It's an ever-evolving set of tools that we have to come up with as we live our lives.
But would you say, and then I'll hand it back to you, gentlemen, but would you say there's a stark difference between, like, if I was looking at like a ruler, maybe, yeah, or integrals, right? And I've got good on one side and bad on the other. Like, there's a very stark difference on getting from point A to point B. And then you're saying it can kind of maneuver across the board depending on how society views it, correct?
Well, everyone would have like their own different ruler is the thing.
Yeah,
and that
I don't
ruler
understand.
would be based upon, again, the society and culture in which they grew up in and their own personal experiences. Again, like, I'm certain that Eli and Adam also have moral disagreements of some kind. And between
probably
the
not. He's
two of
pretty
you,
based.
how would you determine what you consider to be moral and immoral? Ryan and I, we do have a moral and immoral disagreement. Not really actually strongly. I was going to say AI, but you don't actually use it the way I think is bad. So never mind.
Well,
But-
here's
some ways you think
here's
about
the
it.
problem with
Maybe.
everything you guys have just described. Is she asked for how you measure. We heard frameworks, we heard context and sliding scales, but none of that actually tells you how you do any measuring. What we're hearing is that everybody's is different. Everybody's is different depending on where they come from. So how do you reach a conclusion? How
Okay,
do you-
Eli, let's do this in practice together. Sarah,
Right.
could you come up with like a moral situation?
Yeah,
And
I got one already.
We can.
Give it. Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. I think abortion's wrong. You don't. We're making contradicting claims. Either one of us is right or both of us are wrong, but we can't both be right.
Right. And my whole point of real quick before you guys go in on that is the whole point of my opening statement is that if you're saying you cannot make a distinction and the definition of morality begs a distinction, then what you have isn't morality.
Okay, well, let's all go through and talk about why we either think abortion is right or wrong without turning it into a right or wrong, an abortion argument. I think that we can both, demonstrate
morality
using
is a
our own
distinct-
moral codes on why we agree or disagree. Now, for me personally, I think abortion is okay because I do not believe that an embryo is a person. I do not believe that an embryo becomes a person until the fetus is able to exist outside of the womb. And in this case, I have, my empathy is primarily directed towards the mother. I think that forcing someone to undergo the, kind of arduous and life-threatening process of pregnancy and childbirth, and to also bring a child into the world when the mother is not ready, which could lead to resentment, which could lead to inadequate economic circumstances in which to raise a child, which could lead to suffering for the mother and the child, or for a child to be adopted and potentially put into a dangerous home or situation. I do believe that abortion is a very moral thing. I think it is moral for the future of potential children. I think that all children deserve to be loved and cared for as much as possible. And I believe that women should have the right to make the decisions that they want to make about their bodies. So again, by my moral code, I'm telling you that my empathy is applied to women and is applied to, fetuses that can exist outside of the womb. It is out of empathy for children and mothers that I am pro-abortion. I'm telling you, I'm giving you my logical process, and now
Maybe-
I know this
you
world
only
very
go.
well.
It's because
This is-
God said so.
No, it's not because God
I have a
said
slightly
so.
different
I have a
one.
Very simple,
So-
I have a very simple question. Real
None
quick,
of this-
Charlie. Really
No,
simple
I
question.
think we can track it down better a little differently with one kind of clear line across the board, right? Having an abortion objectively is getting rid of the life of something. That is factual, whether you call it a fetus or a baby or whatever, that is clearly subjective to you. But how you feel about killing said life is subjective, right? So objectively, you are killing something. I'm sorry, objectively, you are definitely killing something. Subjectively, how you feel about killing said something it comes down a little differently.
Right, and I would also like to note that abortion really only became considered immoral quite recently in terms of the world, across cultures and religions, by the way. I think it was only about 4 months. I think for Catholics, for a long time, it was only 4 months.
The witch trials were conducted because they were performing abortions.
I've never read
how
that,
far
and I
back do you
have
wanna go?
investigated the witch trials. But I do
There's a whole book
believe
about
that there was there's also practices across the world. I don't think it was until like the early 1900s that abortion in the U.S. became bad for white women, whereas before
Okay.
it was
No, it was
up
illegal
until
for that
4
most
months that it was okay.
I'm happy to do a separate debate on abortion. It's something I'm very passionate about and I have a lot of really good arguments for. But this is kind of getting into gish galloping. It's going down a tunnel. You disagree, we disagree. We can tell you why you're wrong. You can't tell us why we're wrong.
No. Here's what's actually happening is Charlie's giving her understanding and her interpretation and her logical reasoning for why she thinks that abortion should be morally permissible. Yeah. And I mean, it is
logic.
I feel it. I
But yeah, why does her
neglecting feelings is an illogical thing to do? But can I actually present my position?
Hold up. I just gave you a very clear line. Objectively, you are killing something.
Right.
Subjectively, how you feel about it is very different. Now, you, all four of you, need to distinguish where morality falls into place. And I believe we were given an actual definition of what objectively means. And if we look at morality based between those two, where does that metric stand between those two?
Right.
Well, I mean, I would also say that I don't know
murder
if we
is
could...
wrong. It's not killing. Isn't objectively wrong. Murdering is. Abortion is murder. Therefore, it's wrong. Now, you tell me why I'm wrong using your subjective morality.
Right. So, can I give my my moral framework? Because I never fully agreed to the way Sarah just outlined morality as the sliding scale stuff. I actually explicitly denied that kind of sliding scale. But like what I would put forth is my understanding and the way I approach the abortion topic is I actually have empathy for both, right? I think that there is a something that's going to become a human, like there's a person, we can call it, inside of someone else, and I think that I have empathy for both of those things, both those people. And what I think is, well, only one of them is dependent on the other, right? So one of them is dependent on the organs of the other, and outside of that, we would never accept a reality where where parents are forced to give an organ externally to their child, right? After they're born, we don't live in that reality. That's not how the law works. That feels bad to do. And I think the same thing applies here. Like, I don't want to oblige some woman because there's something growing inside of her. I don't think she's obliged to carry that for 9 months and go through all of the trials and tribulations that pregnancy comes with, all of the risks that pregnancy comes with. I think that's a perfectly reasonable, if there's a safe procedure to end that process, then I see it as being a difficult decision. I think most women who go through it view it as a very difficult decision, and I see it as one that's understandable. Even if, like, I might think it's like, I might feel that it's like morally bad in a way. Like I think it's more, I want to live in a world where it is accepted, or where it's allowed, right? So like I again, like this hard line good and evil thing, I just don't accept. I think these things are far more nuanced, and in reality, we have to have these debates as we build out our legal structures to engage with this, which is exactly what we do.
I'm also not sure if I would even consider, again, before a fetus can exist outside of the womb, I'm not sure if that would meet the terms of life. If it cannot survive outside of my body, I do not think that it is independently alive. It is still a part of me.
Charlie?
It is an organ. I'm not done. I think that, it's a potential child. It is a potential life. Every time I menstruate and expel an egg, that's a potential life. Every time the three gentlemen on here ejaculate, that is a potential life that they are expelling. Again, my definition of life would be different from that. I don't view abortion as taking a life.
Okay, let me ask you a question real quick.
Go ahead, Adam.
This is an argument that I've coined myself. I haven't heard anybody else use it. Let's assume for a sec you had a perfectly functioning time machine.
Okay.
No paradoxes, right? And you go back and you perform the abortion on your mother of you at 1 week in the womb. Did you commit suicide?
Yeah.
Oh, so that was still you, even when 1 week,
Well,
even when you couldn't exist
I'm
outside
alive.
your mom. So there you go.
I mean,
We're still
because
versus.
this would also, I mean, it depends on what kind of time travel, like theories of time that you, prescribe to.
Just
Because
bit the
if
bullet on the
I had
contradiction, just
committed,
take
if
it.
I would be trapped in a time loop. Like, how would I exist if I had forced my mother to abort me? there would then be a timeline in which I do not exist. Like, again, you are using. This is, I mean, read any sci-fi book like this. There's so many theories of time travel that I just don't think that this would work.
I said, I desperately want to do an abortion debate with any of you or any other pro-choice person, but I want to bring this back to center. All you two have done have told us how you subjectively feel about it, your emotions and your opinions. How do you make the distinction if somebody disagrees with you about who is right and who is wrong?
So at the end of the day, I don't think there's a fact of the matter. I think that's kind of the whole debate. Is I don't agree there's a fact of the matter about who's right or wrong. But in practicality, I also think that you are doing the same thing we're doing. You're just outsourcing it to your perception of the biblical God. You're doing the exact same thing.
We are
You're
making a
just
distinction.
pushing it to the side.
We are making a distinction as required by the definition of morality. We are able to make a distinction. You are not, and that is where
we can make our own distinctions, absolutely, but we can also
personally,
change our mind. Such as
but
when
not between
Eli
two
and
individuals.
Adam, such as when the priests of your order or whatever debate, and you listen to whatever they tell you, and maybe their moral code shifts. They say, actually, God thinks this is okay. Then you go, oh, okay. This is exactly the same. This is the exact same thing as Ryan and I negotiating our own morality from time to time.
Please stop talking about a theology you don't know. You know, like a
okay, then Eli and Adam, how do you determine your universal moral code? Can you please tell me? How do you determine it?
It would be through the dogmas and the teachings of the Orthodox Church, Christian moral ethic. Okay, again, we have a. No, they did in the councils, and then they formed dogma that is not changing. We don't change the dogmas of the church.
When was the dogma last established?
I didn't come prepared for a debate on the ecumenical councils, but it was established within the ecumenical councils and canon law.
And could you give me like a vague understanding of when this was done?
It was
like you could just say 21st century, 20th century.
It was within the first several centuries. You know, I'm probably wrong, but like third and fourth century.
And there are no disagreements or different interpretations amongst Orthodox Christians of this dogma.
I mean,
everybody
has the freedom to have their own subjective. Everybody has their freedom to make their own subjective interpretation, but they don't get to change canon law because of it. At the end of the day, we determine. No, don't you raise your eyebrows and say,
"Oh God." They can have their subjective.
Yes, you can have one, but we can tell them that they're wrong. We can tell them that it's not debate over, dumbass.
That's called a heresy.
And
you're laughing, and you just proved our point. No, you just proved our point.
And what if someone calls you a heretic?
Stop. No, that smug laugh and those eyebrows being raised, I got to address this.
What do you do when you're a heretic, Eli? What do you do when you're a heretic?
You're shunned.
You're out of the church. You're excommunicated. When somebody's subjective opinion differs from the dogma, we tell them they're wrong, like you can't do to us. So don't raise your eyebrows.
I do think that your moral codes are incorrect, because I think that your moral code.
I don't care. It doesn't matter. You can think that all you want, but your
moral code is objective, because again,
you have no epistemological grounding to do so.
Now we're talking over each other and nobody can hear.
Your dogma is one that you must subjectively interpret. You are subjectively interpreting this religious dogma. Your subjective interpretation of it is you are reading it. By the way, also 2,000 years ago, I mean, the translations upon translations upon translations, you know how different religious texts are in their original language?
You know how many times that's been debunked?
Again, and also, that like works change when they were translated over periods of thousands of years. Yes, that is actually a truth. That is a truth.
Again, I'm not here to debate the source of the standard. I'm pointing out that all you've given us without
21st century life, you cannot interpret those dogmas as they were written. And
I don't have to.
How do you know that these individuals that debated this dogma were correct? Do you think that blind obedience is a positive quality?
In all fairness, I will say, in all fairness, it's outside the scope.
But I
like,
do
we're-
think that if they are going to say that like morality is objective and that this objective morality is based upon Orthodox Christian dogma
Again.
written 2,000 years ago, I do feel that they, have a duty to us to justify this claim. If they're making the
No,
affirmative
no,
claim,
like I
don't
said,
think that that's.
I will talk to you and debate with you about the source of the standard whenever you demonstrate.
I
that
have demonstrated to you what
No.
the source of my standard is.
Yes,
you just
it's
don't
your
like
standard.
it. You don't. Yeah,
no,
it's me.
No,
Thank you.
No, but
it's
we are
me, the context in which I
Yes,
was
so-
born, and based upon
so
my
you are the
empathy and my
arbiter-
mutuality.
So you're the arbiter of all morality on earth. You, Chuck.
I am the arbiter of my own morality. Correct.
Oh,
but this is
oh,
the morality
right. So
that has
everybody
been,
has
that has
their
been,
own different
That has been
moralities.
honed through
Which they
the
do.
context of being, growing up as an American in the 21st
Okay, this
century.
is I don't think you guys are capable of steel manning the proposition that I'm making. So what I'm saying
Again.
is that if like you said, no, give me a second. If like you just said, everybody has their own moralities, then morality is bound up in the definition that we have to make a distinction between good and evil. But one person can call one thing evil and the other person can call the same thing good. You have no definitive, justifiable, epistemological way to make a distinction as required by the definition of morality on what that is. You just say, we all have our opinions, and then we negotiate, and then group consensus fallacy, and then that's what we go with. That doesn't tell us anything. It doesn't tell us why.
Negotiation. When Ryan and I, have you never changed your moral code? Has your opinion on something never changed? Because my opinions have changed.
No,
my moral code
it's
has
ours.
changed. It has changed. There were times in my life when I felt that people with
that doesn't have anything to do
ideologies
with
that I thought were
anything I
very
just said.
extreme should be perhaps subject to death. I no longer feel this way. I no longer feel that if you believe in extremist ideology that is really shitty towards like minorities.
By whose standard are we going with for
LGBT
shitty
women,
here?
I felt my standards, obviously. I'm
Oh,
speaking
so it's
from the
just your
context in
standards,
which
okay.
I live.
Right.
You can
This is
I
the
feel
problem.
like you guys have a very solipsistic worldview, and you cannot
What?
comprehend that other individuals have
We're the
different life
opposite of
experience.
solipsism. You don't even know what that word
Dude,
means.
you do not believe because you believe that you have access to this universal moral code.
Yes.
That you innately have access to this. That is incredibly solipsistic. You were refusing
No, we all
to-
have access to it.
negotiate with other people.
Yeah,
you are
this is
refusing
back to your point.
negotiate with your
No.
fellow man, which is again antisocial behavior.
I'm on a debate with
That
you.
is
I'm
why
literally
religious
on a social
extremists
debate
are-
with you. What do you
I
mean
know,
refuse to
I
engage
know,
with my
but
fellow
is
man?
that,
Are you
like, if
kidding?
you do not
This
do
is your
it,
straw
Adam,
man that you
if
keep
you
doing,
guys do
dude.
not
We also never
allow
paid
you
no
guys
one have access to
done?
it.
then it is
Everybody
guys
has access to the
done?
church.
Are you guys done? Try
Yeah.
again.
Even
Go
Ryan.
ahead, Ryan,
Ryan can go to
shake it
church if
up.
he wants to.
I could, yeah. I could. I
Take
have.
me to
I have.
church.
I've been to church. Yes, in fact. So I can steel man your position, right? I believe your position is that they're because you define morality. Well, actually, I assume this is pretty close to the definition you're working with, which is like principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior, right? And you're
Yes.
saying that if we don't have an objective way to discern between good and bad or right and wrong, if we don't have an objective decision at the end of the day, then that's not morality. But what we're propositioning is that in fact morality is the process of engaging with these ideas in the first place. Morality is we're like, we feel something is right or wrong, and we are discussing why we feel that way. We're elaborating on different ways, different people's experiences and how they understand these things as well. And we're negotiating whether or not they view them as good. And we are saying that all throughout history, that's what morality has been. That's what all of morality, all throughout human history has been exactly that. So you can't deny that that exists because that is literally just how it's always worked.
Fine.
I'm sorry, I'm almost done. I'm gonna land the plane. What you also can't do is demonstrate your the thing you've outsourced to the creator of the universe, which you allege has all these rules that we're supposed to follow. You can't demonstrate that at all, and we just have to trust you. And of course, we don't. So
No,
Yeah,
right now,
knowledge
all
can't
I have
exist
to
absent
do,
God.
real quick, Adam, right now, all I have to do is demonstrate morality's need for an objective standard. Now, what you just said about negotiation and talking about our feelings and singing Kumbaya in a circle, how do you reach the conclusion? You just took the train and I was with you, and then it went into the fog. You went, we all talk about it, and then we get to a thing. Still, this group over here is going to talk about it in Kumbaya circle. This group over here is going to talk about it in Kumbaya circle. Now you got to do it on. Do we have a global council where we
can I
discuss
answer
these
that?
things? Sure.
We do. It's the United Nations.
So,
so the United Nations
so we do
decide our
have
morals. Yeah, great.
So we do.
Great.
Well, no, we
Yeah,
use our
great.
morals to
That was
decide what
the
laws we
good
want to
idea
put in.
of my life.
I'm answering. We decide. We use our morals and our moral negotiations, morality, the process of moral negotiation, to decide what laws we want to put in place, right? And then we can continue to develop that. We can disagree about what those laws are. We can disagree with how to apply them. We can disagree with all sorts of different things. But what we do is we establish some baseline to work with practically, right? That doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that the United States of America right now, we wrote a constitution. We don't always agree on what that constitution says. Sometimes people, like the guy in the White House right now, doesn't give a shit about the constitution. But like in general, we try to engage and work within that baseline of societal like law. Right. Yeah. But that doesn't mean there's an objective answer. Because in fact, again, like we disagree on what the implications of that constitution.
It means you can't create an you can't make a distinct answer. So you've now narrowed it down to the United States. Real quick, I just want to say you're just moving the goalposts up to countries deciding. Charlie believes that universal human morals are decided at the UN. That's hilarious. Go ahead, Adam.
No, I'm just saying that like that is the United Nations.
Okay, yeah,
the
great.
United Nations is an institution in which we decide what we think is okay or not okay. That's how nations.
Do you blindly obey them, Charlie? Do you blindly obey them?
Well, obviously not, because there are many nations that do not obey and then get in trouble.
So
again, we come up with like we negotiate. Countries come together, negotiate on what we think is right or wrong, and then we make laws based on those decisions. And when those laws are violated, we bring someone to trial. This is obviously, it's not perfect because it rarely happens that way, and I wish it would, because the United States can just kind of like strong arm everyone to doing whatever we want them to do. Sucks. Hate that. But
that's awesome.
But again, I don't.
And how do you know that the decision they come to is right? So when you do this kumbaya thing and you do your negotiations and then you discuss all your moral fifis, how do you know that the conclusion you reach is the correct one?
We don't.
I mean, presumably it would. You don't, but specifically, you do so with the intention that everyone ends up as happy as possible and as well off as possible. With the
Why
greatest
should we be as
harm,
happy and as well off as possible?
because we have empathy and love for each other, and we want to survive together as a species.
Most of us do.
Why is that a good thing?
We have an inherent drive to survive.
Why is that a good thing?
We are a social animal. To survive, we do need each other, and we do need to live in harmony. It is a need. It is
That's a nice
need.
story. Can you explain the Roman Empire then?
Why? How?
about the Roman
Maybe.
Empire?
What if we
Can you
are
explain how
actually
they
a
conquered the world? So did Britain.
They
so
survived
did,
hundreds and
Byzantine,
hundreds
so
of
did
years.
Mongol.
Well, they fell eventually, and it was actually
because
they.
another empire formed.
I do believe that was it not the. It was because they had so many of the Germanic tribes in their armies that inevitably they fell.
No,
So the
Rome fell
peoples
because of
that they
Christianity.
well, that's a claim for sure. The last time I talked with this with people who studied Rome. I don't think that that's accurate. The Roman Empire adopted Christianity. You are aware of this, correct?
Yes, I'm aware the Roman Empire adopted Christianity. That's
And
why
you
they
think
stopped. That's why they
Christianity-
stopped their expansion.
Okay, well, England was a Christian country, and they certainly
Anglican.
expanded.
Yeah.
I mean,
Charlie,
many justifications for imperialism and colonialism have been religious in nature. In fact, I do believe that the part of the justification for the enslavement of Africans was that they are the tribes of Ham or something, and so they deserve to be enslaved. Like that was a religious justification. That was
So
a
I want to make
Christian
sure I understand.
justification.
So, like, you think that we're going against like the majority consensus about what morality is? Like, we should all just be nice to each other and sing "Kumbaya," and we should all just respect the trans people, and everybody should love everybody, right? And that's what the moral consensus is. But by that logic, just to be right, you'd have to say that Martin Luther King Jr. he was immoral because he went against the moral consensus. The abolitionists they went against the moral consensus. You'd literally have to make this for every person. Gandhi he went against the moral consensus.
Well, those individuals had a greater application for empathy, and again, I think that.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
The waiter, because they were.
How do you measure empathy? You just
And specifically the
Let her
abolitionists.
answer instead of yelling about it.
One at a time, please. One at a time.
The way that we apply our empathy is based upon our ability to humanize others.
So how do you measure it?
Says who?
Based on our treatment and our feelings. Again, there are individuals, there are groups that.
But what if I don't feel you're being empathetic enough? How do we rectify this?
Fifis is
typically
the
with
objective standard.
protests and movements, etc. We advocate for those rights. Again, this is how we change is made. someone begins to advocate for a broader application of empathy. That is why we live in a society, in a country in which slavery was once legal, in which genocide against, indigenous peoples was once
You and all those
perpetuated.
Christians
We
even
have
say, hey, you can't have fucking slaves.
Yeah, another
let me
Christian
get into
said, hey,
this.
this is absolutely
Actually, we
okay
love
because
that.
it's
No,
not
let me get in this.
Do not
I'd be
steal the
quiet for a
thunder
minute.
of the Quakers. I love the
No.
Quakers. Do not steal their thunder. And
Hey,
in
hey.
my moral code, they were righter than you guys will ever be. I love the Quakers. I'll ride
And
for the
you can't make a
Quakers. I'll
distinction
die
between
for the
your moral
Quakers.
code
I
and
love
Quaker.
them.
But I want to get into
Quaker
this
oats.
because the abolitionists, you
Rocks.
do realize that their entire argument against slavery was based on objective morality, right?
Yes, that was their argument. That was the argument that they provided.
So it seems like this is another point I wanted to bring up is you don't even have to be Christian to agree with objective morality. There are plenty of secularists who say, you know what, I don't believe in the sky daddy, but the Christian, they agree with me that you need an objective standard to have morality because yours doesn't provide any actual substantial morality. And they say the Christian ethic has actually gotten us to things like the abolition of slavery, like these progressive ideas, at least in the broader sense of, moral broadening of empathy, as you put it. What they were doing, the last point I'll make, what the abolitionists were doing is all around them, what they saw from slavery minus obviously the treatment of the people who were enslaved was societal flourishing. The money that they got and produced from the crops that they picked made people super rich. It made them not have to work as hard. Yes, I have realized that later in hindsight, we see that it was economically unviable. But at the time, you couldn't tell anybody, especially in the South, that life wasn't great and awesome and prosperous and happy, just not for these people. But who gives a shit? Because at the end of the day, it's good enough for everybody else.
Okay,
Last
Eli,
little bit. What the abolitionists did is they came in and said, regardless of how this is perceived subjectively to be good for society, there is an objective moral sin of the nation, and there is nobody with your worldview who would have stuck up for the slaves the way the people who believed in objective morality did.
Eli, do you think that I'm pro-slavery?
Well, I think that you would have been
what
back
the
then.
Fuck?
Eli, you just said that there's
It
no
feels
one
like that's
like
the
me.
implication.
Listen, you were proclaiming that
I'm
I
saying-
am not someone
You
that
would
can
have been back
take a
then.
moral
I'm
stance.
saying your worldview.
Let me restate. Let me
God,
restate.
that's strong, man.
Let me restate my opening argument. Morality is subjective, but what is objective is that our morality is developed and based upon our empathy and mutuality.
No, you just asserted
No,
that we developed
That's
our
not the
morality
argument
based
the
on
abolitionists
empathy.
made.
Okay, well,
not the
that's fine.
argument.
That's
the
fine.
argument or not that they made. I
Yeah.
also think
What we're
I
saying
think
is the moral
capitalism
reality.
is immoral. I don't need Jesus to. Well, I mean, Jesus would tell you that. Actually, he would say
Again,
that
I'm
No,
not
you
even-
now you're
it's
telling
immoral.
us what Jesus
So
would say. That's
I'm
great.
not
I mean,
trying to get you
I-
to say.
did say that. I mean, unless you think
really
the Bible
quick,
was
really quick,
wrong,
Ryan,
or,
I wanna-
don't know,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah,
I want to hear what Ryan has to say, but real quick, I'm not even trying to get you to say we need Jesus to know morality. I'm trying to get you to understand that without any objective standard at all, you cannot make a distinction between right and wrong. You cannot actually do that in a universe. Like you could do it in your own world and on your rocking chair, feel whatever the fuck you want. But applying that to the world, there has to be guidelines. There has to be a rule book.
Eli,
Go ahead, Ryan.
that's
I
why
didn't mean
we
to
get
interrupt.
together and make those guidelines together.
You
based
don't
upon
do
our
that
own
when you get
moral
together.
codes.
I've tried to ask
Yes,
you
we
how, and you've
absolutely
not
do.
given
That's
me
how
an
it's how we
answer.
come up with
We
laws.
literally
We
just
negotiate these things.
We negotiate. Okay,
Right.
look, what me and Ryan are going to demonstrate this right now. Ryan, I think that it is immoral to use AI for anything ever at all.
Well, I think that there's actually good stuff you can do with AI, like cancer research and climate change research, and processing your thoughts and ideas in preparation for a debate.
Wow, Ryan. Now that I think about the positive outcomes that it could have for cancer patients, I do see what you mean. However, I do think that AI is broadly still bad, and I think that we should limit its use for non practical and positive things. I don't think we should let it be used for doing things like stealing jobs from artists and songwriters.
Sure. and I recognize a lot of your concerns, and I'm open to engaging on some legislative level and deciding what kind of restrictions we want to put in place. Like, for example, putting in laws to make sure that doctors have to let their patients know if they're using AI or things like this. I'm absolutely okay with putting some legislation in place and ideally putting some systems in place to protect those artists who are losing their jobs, making sure that they have means. And I would also, frankly, encourage those artists to embrace AI and understand how they can really they can embolden themselves and become an even more exciting kind of artist, although they don't have to limit themselves to just using AI, but I encourage them to be open to it. But yeah, I'm totally open to having that conversation. I see where
Wow, Ryan, I love how we just negotiated laws around AI together using our, differing stances on the morality of using AI.
Oh, whose was right and whose was wrong?
We became right together.
Yes.
Okay, great. Real quick.
We determined how this would be handled.
Do we
together.
agree that grape is wrong because it's harmful?
Yeah.
Okay, so what if it doesn't harm the person? What if the victim has no harm that comes to them whatsoever? Was it still bad?
Can you?
I can't conceptualize such a thing.
I cannot.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you an example. She was in a coma. She's in a coma, right? She's in a coma.
There's physical harm.
Listen. She suffers no physical ramifications whatsoever from the event.
So, Adam,
and
are
she
you
has no
aware
knowledge
that
of an
people
event,
who
and will
are-
never learn of the event. She'll never learn the event happened. Was it still wrong?
It was still a wrong act.
But
because
where's
if
my
she were to
harm?
Find about it. If she were to find out,
I just
about
said
it,
in the
it would
case
be
in the
wrong.
hypothetical she doesn't
Also,
find out.
in addition, it is not getting the consent of the other individual. It is
But they don't
performing a
know it
sexual act
happened.
upon someone without
No.
getting the consent, which is harmful. It is.
They
wrong.
will never know it
Why?
happened. How would that
You
harm them
can't-
if they have no knowledge the event ever happened?
This doesn't make
Because
doesn't
you
make
can
any
make
sense,
lots
but-
of
wrong
is
to do
statements,
that.
but
It's
Well,
like,
why is
again,
it wrong to do
it's
that?
also rape is also a violent act not without physical
Look,
consequences
Do you think
upon
Look,
the
the
human
problem
body.
is
What?
it's the
It
is
always
off
has to be
distinction. You can tell us that it's wrong. You can't tell us why it is wrong. You can't tell us why consent
Yes,
is good.
because it
or
is
bad.
dehumanizing. It is dehumanizing
Why
to
is it
other
bad to
individuals.
dehumanize
Hang on.
somebody?
Dehumanize criminals?
We're telling you why it's harmful, and what you keep doing is removing all of the things that we're pointing to from the
I'm
situation.
saying
And we're like,
it's still not
well, yeah, I
bad.
guess if you remove
Why is
all
it
of the
bad to
harm,
dehumanize people?
We can do this with
yeah,
you.
like, why is it bad to do this? Why is it bad to do that? Well, okay,
no, no, no.
Because we should
Hold
survive as a
up,
species and we need
children.
to take
That's
care of
enough.
each other.
Hey,
No,
what if it's great, but they actually do have the consent? Then it's like, okay,
No,
well, wait.
that would be a contradiction. No, what I'm saying is this person never experiences any physical or emotional harm or psychological harm from this event. So there's no harm. They never
What
know
if
it
the
happened.
sky fell?
Well, since
Here,
I'm actually asking
I'll say
a
there's
possible-
no way for
What if
that.
God isn't
There's no
real?
way. Hang on. There's no way for the person engaging in that act that you're describing to know that that's going to be the outcome. And so
That
they
has
would
nothing to do
assume,
with it.
like any reasonable person would, that they are actually likely to cause emotional harm. They are likely to cause physical harm because that's
Okay,
what
great,
happens in
you're
every other
changing
scenario
the
except for your
subject.
insane
Can I
Can I turn
hypothetical.
this around, Eli and Adam? If
Why don't
if
answer my question
the
and then ask
Orthodox
me one?
Leaders, if the Orthodox
Answer
leaders
my
that
question before
follow,
you
if
ask
they
me
We did,
told
we
you-
did.
if
Go
they
ahead.
said,
No, you didn't
God
answer
says
the
rape
question.
is
You asked-
okay.
answer
Hold
a whole
on.
nother
If
question you
you're-
didn't ask.
Stop.
if you're-
Stop.
if
Stop.
you're
Stop.
Christian
She
teachers-
answered. You just aren't happy with the
No,
answer.
Ryan didn't
Yeah,
answer
you're
the
not
question. You
happy
just answered
with
a
the
whole
answer.
different question.
But I do feel like, let me turn Eli and Adam. If the Orthodox Church came together and decided rape is okay and you should do it, Eli and Adam, would you go out and commit acts of violent rape? Could you do that?
Logical impossibility.
Do
from our
you
worldview.
have that? Do you have that in
Same
yourself
with
to
the-
do this? Do you have that in yourself?
No, it is logically possible from your
If
worldview.
God
still.
said you should, do it, would you do it? No,
No,
matter how bad
it's
it
a
feels,
contradiction.
Eli and
No,
Adam,
Wait a minute.
would
You just
go and
moved the
do it?
goalpost. You
Would
just
you
moved
go
the
and do-
goalpost
No,
from
I'm
Orthodox
asking you
leaders
if
to
you
God.
can- Okay, if the Orthodox leaders told you.
They can be wrong. We're not Roman Catholics who believe they have infallibility.
Okay, so if they came together and read that dogma and determined actually by the Orthodox Christian dogma, rape is okay, and you have a duty
But
as a man
that's
to do
not
it.
the case with Orthodox Christian dogma.
it
The
could
dogma
be.
has already been
But
established.
it could be. The dogma has been established, but different interpretations arise every time. They could unearth another text of it, whatever.
No,
And you could.
That's not how
So
no,
you couldn't.
that's not how it works.
so it
you
would
don't
just
you don't
never
have any
happen.
understanding about
It
how
would just
Orthodox
never happen.
ecclesiology works.
So Orthodox morality
just
has never changed. It's never changed.
No, the fundamental canon law and dogma is universal. That's actually what Catholic means when we say one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. It's universally applicable. And it's not evolving. We don't believe in an evolving doctrine. So
Okay, well, how come they didn't think that like marital rape was wrong? Like,
Dude, that's the dumbest.
You changed the way you define it.
Thank you for reminding me that you said that. That is like the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Why? Why is it dumb? It was legal. It was fine for a long time.
No, it wasn't. It was still sinful.
But how do you even have that? Could I actually?
Okay.
Could I have a link? Do you guys have like a link of the dogma? Because I'm wondering how you use this in application in the 21st century. I mean, we already struggle with application of our Constitution in the 21st century with our developing technologies. How do you even determine these things? Like, how do you then you have to debate
I want to point
require
out
more
something.
than just. I think just to answer that, I think it would require more than just reading a list of bullet points, because in terms of faith and church and spirituality, that requires going to, and there are actually like sanctions of like your learning growth, like there's communion, baptism, catechism, so on and so forth, and different depending on which church you're in, but there's different variations of learning points and how, like, this way you're learning it the way it's meant to be taught. You can't just read bullet points and say I understand.
Right. So I was raised Christian, non-denominational Protestant. So I do like understand the whole having to go to church and learn from other people. However, I myself felt like it was hypocritical for other human beings to tell me what they thought about the Bible and how I should interpret it correctly. And then I even had issues with, the knowledge that these were translations upon translations upon translations of texts. And so again, my idea on Christianity as a whole, I think if you go beyond Jesus saying you should be good and loving to each other, I think you might be doing it wrong. Those are my thoughts. But again, so even if they're going through this training, you can't make it a perfect every single time, the same application, same standard of training across the board. Like if you are like each pastor or preacher or priest or whatever is going to be different. They might have a slightly different interpretation. They might teach people a different way. Like it's never going to end up, you're never going to end up with the perfect Orthodox Christian every single time. You're going to have people who disagree with each other.
No, that's not how it works. You have to go to seminary school in order to be a priest in Orthodoxy. You have to understand,
and you're going to have
very
different
specific interpretations of Scripture.
Time.
Orthodoxy believes that Scripture has a specific interpretation. It's not for everybody to read and come up with their own interpretation. That's Protestant.
And again, like the interpretations and opinions of a priest maybe could vary again outside of dogma. But if a priest is teaching things that are heretical, we have a process for that. They get removed. They get defrocked. You can't be a heretic and still be teaching the same. At that point, it is no longer the same deposit of faith. It's no longer the same.
You're changing the ontology of the faith at that point. It's no longer the same faith.
So I do feel like if you need to be, if you live your life by something written by someone 2,000 years ago,
that's just an argument.
I don't want to get into the.
Let her make the argument.
I do feel like let me make the argument. I do feel like
it's fallacious.
If you need like again written out sets of laws to know how to do good or know how to do bad or to know what good or bad is, I do think that I don't want to say that I would view you as beneath me, but I would view you as significantly less advanced than me because you're incapable of, again, developing.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure.
Oh my God! All right, the condescension,
right? Because it's old.
The condescension has.
Adam, I have been very polite. I feel like this entire time.
You haven't answered.
Again, I do think.
Can I ask the panel? Do we think that we are born with morality, or the
some
judgment
people are
thereof?
born with the truth written in their heart, but not all.
We are born with the ability to communicate and know God. We are born with, because look, when we talk about good and evil, we believe good has an ontological source, and that is God. Evil does not have this is at least the Orthodox perspective. Evil does not have an ontological source. It is a privation of the good. And if we are born with an ability to know and share the essence and commune with God, then yes, we are born with an ability to draw near to him and to be moral. Now, somebody can make the choice out of their free will to adopt the privations of good and thus commit evil. But it doesn't have an ontological state. So yeah, the answer would be roughly yes.
Ryan
so
and Charlie, do you have?
I would say that we are, as biological beings, like there was a lot of evolution, right? Evolutionary processes. There are things that we've evolved, these what we call like pro-social behaviors, and we can develop our ideas of morality through those feelings and through those processes. So I think we're born with things that we can then develop morality out of.
And we are observably, nearly every human being is observably born with this ability. From a very, very, very early age, we are. I can send you the paper that I read on this. We can be observed caring for other children, crying when other babies cry, sharing our toys. Again, we are born, the majority of us are born with the capacity for empathy. There are individuals who are born without empathy. However, for instance, I do think that people with very significant autism actually, I don't even know if that's necessarily true, but they can logically, put themselves in the same shoes as other people using compassion. But even people who lack empathy, I think, based on mutuality and understanding that if they were to, harm others, that there would be consequences, can develop a kind of moral code. So again, I do think that objectively, most of us are born with empathy. And that's how morality is developed. This is how we develop our individual moral codes, which is also heavily based upon the society in which we live.
But there's a bunch of different moralities, and they're all equally valid, right?
No, they're not all equally valid.
How do you determine which one's more valid than the other?
Negotiation.
and how do you know
that? Which has the broadest application of empathy is what I would say. Which has the most humanizing factor.
And you can't even tell us why empathy is a good thing.
Yes, I can, because we're social animals, and pro-social traits help us survive as a species.
Why is it good to survive as a species? Why are the anti-natives?
It's good if you think that it's good. Hang on, it's good. Hang on, let me respond. Shut up. It's good if you think that those outcomes are good. If you think the things we're identifying as pro-social outcomes, if you think those are good, then it's good. If you think that like living in a society with people who are able to empathize and understand each other and do these things, if you think that's bad for some reason, maybe God told you it's bad. I don't know. I don't think so. But like if you thought that was bad, then it would be bad by your standard, and we would have to negotiate with you and try to figure out like why you are so opposed to most people's intuition about these things.
I need to pin you guys down on this negotiation bullshit, because you did that whole condescending meta fake debate, and then you guys said, look, we reached a conclusion, and I said, who was right and who was wrong? You said we became right together. How do you know that? How do you know that?
Well, there was going to be.
You came to an agreement. How do you know it's a correct agreement?
Eli, I hate to tell you this, but I feel like there's a certain type of individual that desperately needs to believe in this very, very steady black and white objective truth and world to survive, and cannot handle the idea that our world is complex, and that your ideas, who you are about the world, are going to evolve over time and change. You cannot steal complexity from human beings. We are unfortunately so fucking stupidly complex. We're useless as babies because we spend so much time developing our big fat idiot brains. It is frankly ridiculous. And this also boils down to the fact that, again, I don't want to throw atheist arguments at you guys. I don't want to become the Reddit atheist, because again, I don't hate Christians. There are many Christians that my advisor for my dissertation when I was doing my master's was a gay Christian priest. Love him to death. I don't think he's an idiot. I don't think he's stupid. I don't, shit on his faith. But again, like, if there is an objective morality that is right, why wouldn't God create? Why do we?
If God real, why bad thing happen? Is that really your argument?
Let me get in here. I gotta address what she said. No, I gotta address what you said. You're trying to act.
Hold on.
No.
Eli, let me take care of this real quick, because this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. If God real, why bad thing happened? That's actually your argument. Can you even have can you have love without free will?
I don't know. You tell me.
No, you can't have love without free will. Love requires choice.
Okay.
So how could we?
So
how
why
could we
does
love
God?
God
Why
if he forced
does
us to do it?
Well, why wouldn't he? If there's an objective morality that we can appeal to, why would he not just program?
don't
us
even
all?
have a standard for what is bad.
Why would we have? I do have a standard for what is bad, and I told you what
It's
it's based
yours,
upon.
and if somebody else has a different one,
Empathy and mutuality.
we have to deal with that, yeah.
Hold on, empathy is just as likely to get you
Settle
killed.
it down, please.
Empathy is just as likely to get you killed out in the forest, you know, in you know the freaking caveman times, just as much as, you know, hitting big guy with stick on, you know, on the head.
No, I will.
If you feel
concede there,
empathy
Adam,
for
I
the
do think
person
that
who's
there
over there,
are- I
huddled
think there are
over and look like they're
malicious
hurt.
applications of empathy. Absolutely. So the Nazis actually really loved animals and dogs, and did their best to kind of you know, like stoke a love for nature, a reverence and love for nature and animals within the German people. But they did so to, you know, portray Jewish individuals and other undesirables as somehow impure, less pure than the pure animal, the pure natural world. These undesirables were all filthy and contaminated. So again, that is an application of empathy that is used for evil. Absolutely.
Okay.
Empathy can be used for evil 100%, but it is
so
still
then how
also
is empathy
we
the
develop our-
standard?
yeah,
Because
you
I mean,
cited
Adam,
that as your
that is-
standard the entire
that is
evening.
what their moral codes were based off of, Adam. That is how the
Right.
moral codes were
Right.
developed.
So if everybody has different ones and some utilize things like empathy for evil, then maybe their moral standard is wrong objectively. Your whole worldview says that they can't be wrong. They can only be wrong by my standard in my head. And you know, the Nuremberg trials, by the way, also, like the abolition of slavery, utilized objective morality. They cited crimes against humanity. If we all have different varying moral concepts, and again, they're all equally valid, then why would they cite a universal crime against humanity?
They
Not a crime
also-
against my
they
moral
also
code, not a
mandated
crime
that,
against our negotiations, but a crime against humanity.
The Nuremberg trials were actually a little bit hypocritical in a way because they did not allow for the you know, Nazis or their lawyers to bring up the crimes that had been committed by the Allied powers either in the past or during the war against innocent civilians. So that's kind of I feel like
No,
that's
that
a little
didn't
bit of
address my
a
question
little
at
bit of a moot point there because again, that is not necessarily you know,
Chuck.
considering the broadest application of empathy. Again, what I'm saying here is the way that our moral codes evolve and change is based upon the application of empathy.
So can your moral code on things like, you know, torture, rape, and atrocities, can those evolve and change where those things can become good? Is that possible?
To
Is
an
that logically
individual and in a
possible?
society, yes, absolutely. And they have been considered moral and appropriate in our society before, which is not good. In fact, I do think that certain forms of torture are still legal.
Well, here's
in
what
the
I want to
United
press you on real quick. You said that you didn't want to throw out atheist arguments and that you're trying to be fair, but I want to express how you have strawman Christianity in a lot of ways. Number two, you said that we are, why do we consider ourselves so superior to have access to this thing, which anybody can have access to? And then went on to say later that you consider yourself more advanced of a human than us because we have this belief. And then you started to say that it takes a unique kind of person that relies on this black and white objectivity and just can't understand the complexities of the world. Please spare me the condescension, okay? I want to touch on that. Of course, there's complexities in the world. This is where my point is coming from, is that because the world is complex and because there are so many differing opinions on what morality is, it is essential to be able to make the distinction that this is evil. And and in order to combat that, we can't have a fluidity of it actually becoming good if someone else's moral paradigm says it is and they have a group negotiation. You have no means to stop evil in its tracks when it can be so fluid. And that's what you're refusing to get from our argument. Ryan did a semi-good job steel manning it, but you are absolutely ignoring the fact that you cannot make an ought from an is, and you haven't throughout this whole debate. You have told me what is the case with humanity. You have not told me why it is the case. We could take any point, whether it's...
I have told you that I think that the way it is, in the sense that we continue to negotiate our morality, I think that is the way it is, and that is the way it ought to be. I
Yeah.
like this.
Okay,
method.
there
So-
now we got not claimed.
This
Why
way.
aren't we negotiating?
I said that in the beginning.
No, she said she's getting her oughts from her
You guys
is, not
just
making a
don't like
distinction
my
between
answer,
the two.
and I'm telling you,
No,
it is
it's
the
'cause
way
it's
it is,
illogical.
and I like the way that it is. And it
No,
ought
it's
to
not
be
that we
that
don't
way.
like it.
You
It's
guys are saying
illogical.
you are saying that what I am saying is the way it is. But you guys think it ought to be, we ought to all become Orthodox Christians and follow this specific dogma. I am saying
Again.
that this is the way it is, and it ought to be this way. I like that it is this way. I think that at the end of the day, if we continue down this path of continued moral negotiation, we will continue to have the best outcome for everyone as much as
You are
possible.
lashing out at Christianity because you're unable
Hang on,
to
before you
demonstrate how
defend
morality
Christianity,
can.
I want to let you do that, but I just want to say, like, to her point and to the debate prompt right here, like what she's describing and what we've been outlining this entire time is, and it seems like maybe you even acknowledge, is a process that has been happening for all of human history, and this is the moral project that we're referring to. So if you might deny that's morality, I don't think any like anyone studying philosophy in any capacity would argue that that's not engaging in morality. And so I think that, like, to the debate prompt, I think it's inarguable that, like, what we're describing is a real phenomenon, and that morality therefore does in fact exist without needing your particular brand of morality or objective morality at all.
You can also
again,
just
you
watch
can-
the-
you
you
can
can
call
also
it
just
morality.
watch the progress of the world. You can watch the progress of the world, which has happened with and without Orthodox Christianity.
Again, you're
And
presupposing.
it's not always up. It's
Can
not
I
always up.
ask a
Sometimes it is down.
question? Charlie, you mentioned the negotiations, and sorry, I don't mean to like impede on your debate, but I was very curious for this debate. I really want to see it flourish. But you had mentioned negotiating morals, right, to come to what you considered a like conclusionary moral grounding between the two of them. Would you consider if terrorists were trying to do something, would you then try to negotiate between your morals and their morals to find something that's right between the two? And that, let's say they're doing like very terrible terrorist acts. Would you say, like, let's negotiate our moral grounding and find something good for everyone?
I mean, I think in the way that we deal with extreme crimes like those, I think it is much more than the negotiation between the criminal and one individual. It would be essentially what we do now is, I think, representatives of various kinds come together and determine what the best course of action is in this case, like what would be the best solution for everyone.
Well, what I'm asking
sometimes
you
the end
is,
result.
what I'm asking is the morality of what they're doing, right? Whatever the actions they're doing, how do you determine who's right between the two?
How do you determine who is right between the two?
Between like terrorists and you, like, how are you going to determine who's right between the two of you? Are you going to sit and negotiate your morals and their morals together and see if you can come to something in the middle?
Sometimes the end result of negotiation or lack thereof is that you just have to stop somebody from doing something that you like have already established under some moral framework.
Something antisocial, something that is incredibly antisocial and dangerous, which is dehumanizing to other individuals.
Like we don't need, there doesn't need to be like some external like metaphysical wrong or right in that, like we can have an idea of who was in the right and who was in the wrong, and we can negotiate and debate that, but like in practicality we just have to decide like how do we handle these things.
Okay,
and
you keep
like
saying that
we
you
don't
can negotiate and you can debate, but none of that leads to a conclusion that you can believe in with certainty and justification. That's
and I think that what you're doing is coping because you also can't do that, so you're outsourcing it to God.
No, we
because
can.
you don't want to do the legwork. You don't want to do the legwork that we're doing right now. You don't want to engage with the reality which is on the ground. We don't have these metaphysical truths about reality, and you are outsourcing to them because you can't imagine a world without them.
Okay, but like I said, we can reach definitive, binding, justified conclusions. Yours cannot. So when you do a comparison of worldviews, yours falls short at being able to stop evil by identifying it as ontologically and truthfully and justifiably an evil thing.
So
because
Eli
anybody
and
can
Adam-
come in by your same,
That's
real
great.
quick, anybody can come in by your same standard, disagree with you, say we did all the negotiations, we did all of the debates and rational, and we came to a different conclusion than you. So where's the tiebreaker that lets a society know who's in the right and who's in the wrong? You're taking this democratic view to something that requires much more concrete definitions in order to actually be applied in a meaningful way. So again, to the prompt, real quick, as Ryan brought up the prompt, how, yeah, I can see that you can call it morality, but when it's bound up in the need for a distinction, it's a meaningless and unjustified morality that could just be tossed. You could, in your worldview, toss the word morality out and replace it with negotiation, preference, any of these things. It's not an actual distinction between good and evil. It's just what a group of people agree on. How do you know that the group of people are
agree
right?
on what is good and evil.
Yeah, but how do you know that you came to the correct agreement?
So I would say Eli and Adam in response.
I'll answer that question. How do you know that you came to the right agreement? You're going to get Gallo.
Hold on. Let her come around.
There is a reason that, Ryan and my worldview and Ryan's worldview, as people who are, I don't know what Ryan's personal spiritual beliefs are, but we most likely secular, I'm assuming. There's a reason that our worldviews tend to be the most successful. I think that we could use, countries like Iran as an example. Those are religious extremists that try to force everyone within that country to follow their religious dogma. So at the end of the day, Eli and Adam, your idea of like an objective morality is one that it is without negotiation. If your worldview was the worldview, it would be, oppressive and insane. There would be mass punishment. There would be mass suffering. Like, it would be awful.
Why is that bad?
But the thing is that under my worldview and under Ryan's worldview, people like you are allowed to be what you are. You are allowed to be Orthodox Christians. Under your worldview, if got your way and you were in charge of everything and you tried to make everyone follow your, objective moral stance, it would be widespread suffering across the world. So again, Ryan and I have the more pro-social. We have the more pro-social beliefs. Your guys' beliefs are in a way anti-social. I believe that.
I know we're so evil. Like we wouldn't let you strap on the porn helmet and getting the coon pods.
Wait.
They ask you to justify why it's bad to cause all that suffering. That's what they do.
Why is it like?
Okay, where are you getting the idea that if Christians came into widespread power, that there
Orthodox
would be widespread suffering? If they came into widespread power, that there would be widespread suffering.
Are you guys okay with people not believing in God?
Yeah.
Even though they're going to go to hell?
We were going to try to convince them not to. See, this, you have this idea that we're going to kill people for being.
Trying to constantly be forced conversions.
Well, the Orthodox Church is one of the only, and I don't like to call it denomination, but it is one of the only denominations that doesn't really proselytize and evangelize. It's kind of like, most people in their Christian journey, if you do come to accept a Christian worldview and you do enough, research on the truth, your Orthodox Church is always down the street. You're going to walk in there yourselves. You don't see Orthodox street preachers. You don't see, that kind of thing, because it's not an emphasis the way that in Protestant theologies, the entire gospel message is centered around the sermon. So we have to go shove that sermon in everyone's face. Again, you have this angsty 14-year-old view of what Christianity is and zero knowledge of what Orthodoxy is. And you're strawmanning the hell. But no, go back. Where do you get from that there's going to be widespread suffering if there's widespread Orthodox Christians in power?
So Eli and Adam, everyone
just answer the question. God, stop dodging.
It is my understanding that Orthodox dogma views certain individuals as abominations, such as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender.
The act is an abomination, not the individual. Again, you don't know what the hell you're talking about when it comes to Christianity.
No. I know
you have
love
a
the sin, hate
angsty
the sinner.
14-year-old interpretation
hate the sin,
of Christianity.
Love the sinner. No, I went to church. I had to go to church twice a week till I was 14.
That's exactly what it. Till you were 14. That's where the knowledge stopped.
That's where the angst starts.
Vindicated.
Based on your guys' point of view, my non-denominational Protestant Christian church wouldn't even be teaching the correct dogma.
Again,
because my church was teaching that marital rape was not rape. Because that was what I was taught in my Christian church, is that women had no right to say no to
And
their
guess what?
husbands and must
That's
always
not the
be
position of
subject
Orthodox.
to-
And we would say
Okay.
those people are evil, but
Well, I'm
those people
just
got
saying
together
is
and
that, like, again, you
negotiated
guys
and
don't
determined
think
that it
that's-
wasn't evil.
That's the
So-
correct. That's the correct. You guys are saying that, like, even if I had stayed in church, I would not. So don't laugh. I would not even be teaching what you guys believe to be the correct dogma, the
Be a lot
correct religious
closer.
dogma. It'd be a lot closer. Marital
You'd
rape is a
probably
lot
be
closer.
No.
Marital rape is a lot closer.
That's some weird, bizarre.
They also believed that all Muslims were infidels who should be wiped out. Is that close to
What
your guys'
weird ass
Orthodox
cult
Christian
did you
dogma?
go to?
Yeah,
like,
It was
do you
horrible.
think
I
that
don't
if you
wanna talk
ask
about
the average Christian on the street, if they believe that they're going to agree with you? Again, you have this, like, you think every Christian's Westboro Baptist Church. This
I
and
don't.
again, if they call us the
Eli and
closed-minded
Adam,
ones.
I have Christian friends. But
You
I
got
am saying-
token
And do they
Christian
believe
friends?
that stupid
I
shit?
do. No, of course
Do
not.
they believe that stupid shit?
Eli and
Then
Adam,
why are
I'm
you
telling
applying
you
that to
I
us
don't
universally?
understand.
It's
But
a
I'm trying to
disingenuous,
say-
bad
I am
faith
trying
straw
to
man.
say that okay, so Eli and Adam, if Orthodox Christians were in charge of the government, what changes would you make to our laws?
Real, I mean, honestly, this is all it really comes down to at the end of the day. Is the gays and the abortion would be two pretty good places to start for me. And I don't think that society's going to crumble if gays can't put it
So
in
you
the
do wanna
butt
oppress gay
and if
people.
can't
Yeah, like
murder
we
their
said.
babies.
So you
That's
want
not
to
oppression.
oppress
I'm sorry, the
people
church
and
does
not
not
women
condone
to
a
be
Let's
man-
have a
It is
negotiation
oppression, yeah.
about whether or
Okay,
not
so
that's oppressive.
again,
Children.
that is oppressive. In
Why
fact,
is
like,
society-
again, people like me don't get to exist under your worldview.
What?
People-
Hold on,
under
hold on.
my worldview, people like you get to exist, no matter how wrong.
You
and
get to
backwards I
exist.
think
Yeah.
your
Yeah, you get to
beliefs
exist.
are.
No matter how
Hold
annoying
on.
you
You just
I have a
can't
question.
scissor.
Yeah, but I
We
have to
are
suffer. But I have to
moving
suffer.
way
You're not suffering by not-
outside
Hold
of
on.
the scope of the prompt.
love
I'm
with
going to
women
give
before. If
you
I'm not
2
allowed
more
to
minutes to
scissor
finish
with a
that
woman I love,
thought.
yes, that
Charlie,
is
is it oppression if we stop people who are, let's say, suicidal?
If you stop her from
committing-
scissoring by force, I think that sounds
That
like
is
pretty bad,
oppressive.
right?
If you do not let
No,
me
there's
scissor in the
nothing wrong with
comfort of
that.
my own
Answer the
home,
question,
that
Charlie.
is oppressive.
It's
Do I think
oppressive to
it's,
stop people from committing suicide?
What?
That's
Well,
oppressive?
what does that have to do with scissoring and
Unalive.
No, let me ask you this. I got one
Alive.
quick question. How come I can't go walk down Main Street stark ass naked?
It's actually depending upon the city, you can.
Oh, yeah,
In
during
San
June.
Francisco,
But-
you
yeah.
can do that.
Let's-
San Francisco,
Again,
you
now
can do it.
engage with what I'm talking about. Most laws have indecent exposure laws. Why do you think we have you? And you might disagree with them. I would think someone from your worldview might think it's cool if everybody walked around naked. But where do you think we get those laws from?
I think that typically we have humanized children to a degree. We understand that, like, exposing yourself physically to someone is very much a sexual act. In our culture, the genitals, specifically women's breasts, and then penises and vaginas are, exposing those to someone is a sexual act of some kind. And sexual acts require consent, because otherwise, if they are done without consent, they can be traumatizing to some degree. So it is out of empathy for others that we have made it so exposing yourself is illegal in most cases.
Sure. Okay. And you know what? I'll concede it's probably not the greatest analogy. I'll totally concede it, but I think it has to do with what a culture deems to be within the decency. It's a decency law, right? Versus
Right.
like maybe in a tribal society, you see everybody's like wearing a loincloth and barely any clothing or whatever.
Right. Well, that's like the
Because-
cultural norm.
Right, exactly. So again, but do you think that somebody who is told that they cannot do that kind of thing is suffering? Or even, let's just bring it back. I want to get, that was a bad analogy. I concede it was a bad analogy. The first one that came to my
Okay.
head. But going back to whether or not you can make lesbian love with your girlfriend, okay?
In the privacy of my own home.
Right. Where is
Consensually.
Yes, but where is the suffering if you were told that you couldn't do that anymore?
It is impeding upon my freedom, man, because I like to scissor.
Yeah,
It
well,
feels
I know,
great.
but what if
And
someone
again,
likes
what
to
would
streak?
happen if she did it anyway? What would happen? What would you do if she did it?
Who is
Again,
being
I
harmed
don't-
by
I'm
my
not going
sister?
into
Go straight to
politics.
jail, Ryan. Straight to
Eli
jail,
and
Ryan.
Adam.
That's what they'd
Straight
say
to jail.
forever.
Again, yeah.
Who is being harmed
Dude.
by my
He's
sister
only half
in
joking.
my bedroom?
We would say both of you.
Why?
Well, who is being harmed whenever two twin brothers commit an act of incest together? That's illegal.
Ew.
Two twin brothers?
Yep.
That is actually an interesting.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm
ethical
Jack.
issue
I'm stealing
to-
it. Thanks, Andrew.
To talk about.
Or the same reason
whether
why
or
we don't
not,
let you have
like,
sex with corpses.
Yeah. Who's being who's being harmed in these situations? Now it's coming down to a definition
twin
of harm.
brothers.
Yeah.
I mean,
who's
we
being
have.
harmed? Or do you think it should be legal?
I think that
I would-
because we in our society have deemed incest to be wrong in many cases, and I do believe that there is a.
So what if society
biological-
deems gayness to be wrong in many cases?
Yeah.
They
If that's
have.
your
Well, then the gays
standard,
get
you
punished.
just
They
handed
have.
it back over
They
to
have.
us.
They
Yes,
did.
I'm
That's what
sorry to
happened.
tell you,
Yeah.
but the way that we feel about things is often based upon the fucking the society that we grew up in. Our
Right.
beliefs are based upon the
Right.
society that we grow up in.
So
Our
our morality
morals
can
are
be
formed by
wrong
that.
based off our beliefs, right? Our morality can be wrong if we only apply them to our own personal beliefs. Is that what you're saying? Sounds
No,
like
what
we
do you
need an
mean?
objective
Can you rephrase
standard.
it?
Morality can
I
evolve.
don't think that we need an objective standard. We need negotiations.
No. You just
how do you
said.
negotiate? How do you negotiate two, let's
Oh,
say,
I gotcha.
adult twin men having sex? How would we negotiate this morally?
No. I
Are
want to go
either
down
of
what
them
you
being
just
harmed
said.
by it? They're both
No.
adults, and they do not have power over each other.
I'll
I
answer
would
that
say
in a
that
sec, but I'm not going to let you run away.
Gross, but I think it's not immoral.
I'm not going to let you run
I
away.
would encourage them not to do it.
No, let me
I
engage
am
with Charlie.
saying I think it's
I'm holding
immoral.
on to
I
this.
think it's gross. I think it's weird, but I don't think that it is immoral
Nope.
because
What
there
about
is
you,
holding
Abba?
on to this.
consent
No,
to it.
everybody-
That is
It's
how
probably
I
going to
think.
cause it's likely to cause. I mean, like when you
Can I-
decide to engage in sexual relations with someone, you
You're
are
running.
setting up a situation where you might end up stopping that, and then there's going to be all sorts of problems that emerge from
Hey.
your breakup and stuff. And if you do that with a direct family member, I mean, just practically,
It
like
would,
it's a bad
it would
idea.
split up the family unit. It would be, not good.
So what
It's-
about a
it's
car?
antisocial.
Guys, can I engage with Charlie? Because she just said something crucial to the debate that I want to press her on. When I was talking about how, at one point, society collectively disagreed with gayness, and you said, well, a lot of our beliefs or a lot of our morality is caught up in our personal beliefs in the culture in which we were brought up. You were using that as a case against the moral code of being anti-homosexual. So if our personal beliefs and our upbringing and our subjective feelings can actually lead us to a morally incorrect conclusion, then doesn't that kind of defeat subjective morality?
No, I would say because again, those views towards gay people tend to change as they have changed in the U.S. I mean, we used to, put people in asylums for being gay.
Right.
And now
but
you can
going-
get married if you're gay. So again, we negotiated over time because people advocated for a broader application of empathy. People began to humanize gay people. There was a big movement based off of what? Our shared humanity.
Oh, our shared humanity.
Based on a developing idea of humanity
And the
and
realization is that
love and
gay
marriage.
people are not aberrant and that their existence is not antisocial.
What I think you just said is that, and again, you guys basically have conceded this, is that our morality comes from our feelings and our emotions and our culture, and that's how. It's only good whenever I like it and it fits my cause, and it's super bad if you use it against my cause. So again, Charlie is the
that's how
ultimate
you guys
arbiter of
feel.
morality.
That's how
So-
you guys believe that you are the ultimate arbiters of morality too, to the point
No,
that you
I
would not
don't.
let-
I don't,
We
you
submit
guys
to
would not-
God.
You guys would not let me scissor a woman in the privacy of my own home because you think that your God wouldn't like it. You
Yeah, and
guys
again-
are acting as the ultimate arbiters
No,
of
we
morality,
think-
and it's
we-
oppressive. It is oppressive to force
We're
your
getting
belief in
somewhere.
your objective morality.
We're
onto
getting
other
somewhere.
people.
Hold on, it's like Charlie.
No, no, no.
Charlie, what if my religion was to, let's just say, have good times with the youngins, right? Would you stop? Would you be oppressive to my religion?
I would have empathy for the children that are being harmed by your religion.
But what if they're not harmed? What if they love it?
Again, why we don't allow people to practice Sharia law generally, in the sense where they
What if they
kill
love
their
it?
daughters who get raped. I mean, what if they love it is a crazy thing to say. I think that we have oodles and oodles of research on why this is inappropriate. However, in our society, this was also not always the case. We used to let children suffer horrible things. Again, the 5-year-olds in coal mines. People
Oh, that's
usually
a good
did not give a fuck
Dude.
if kids were getting touched. in many noble families, children were being married off at very, very young ages. And I would wonder if countries that, believed in the Orthodox Christian Church were practicing that as well. And now we realize that that is wrong because we have broadened our application of empathy. We have understood that children and teenagers are vulnerable individuals that need to be protected. We have empathy for them. We have.
How do you know that
empathy
it's broadening the application of empathy and not just broadening the application of a moral standard?
Or the
I could say
understanding
the
of
same thing.
biological reasons for why we put the age of
because
consent at 18.
again, I believe that our morality is derived I believe that morality is objectively derived from empathy and mutuality.
Objectively?
It's objectively derived from that.
Yes,
No,
I said that in my statement.
So you
I
do
said
have.
I believe
is
that
it
it's the
objectively
objective
subjective?
basis of
So you need them. So you need an objective standard in order to have morality. I really don't care what your objective
you
standard
just need
is. I just need to
objectively
get
to
you to
have
admit.
the you objectively either need to have empathy or mutuality.
Why are
Most
those the
people have
criteria that
both.
we have to have in order to have morality?
Because how the fuck else are you going to develop a moral code?
Well, what makes
You can outsource it to God,
I
apparently.
guess you can
Well, what
outsource
if my
this to
moral
God,
code
but
totally
again,
disagrees with
saying
your moral
but
code?
again,
But I think
okay,
I'm very
Adam
empathetic.
and Eli, if God came down from heaven and told
Answer
you,
my question
you guys
first.
need to go grape and murder
Dude,
children.
answer my question first.
Would
Stop
you do
asking
it?
questions
Would
and
you do
dodging.
it, or
Answer
would you
them.
be uncomfortable with it? Would you be uncomfortable with it because you have been raised in a society in
God,
which
you
that
don't
is
answer any
wrong,
fucking questions.
and you have empathy for children,
talking to a
and
She
you
child.
did
don't
with like
want to
every
harm
question
them.
you asked, dude.
No,
I
she
answer your
hasn't.
questions all the time, bro. I've
You
been
haven't answered
answering your
any of my
questions.
fucking questions.
You just
You've
don't like
dodged
my
half of them.
questions, man. You don't like them. You don't
No,
like
they're
my
not
answers.
an answer.
That's
If I
okay.
asked you
but-
what day of the week is it, and you go, it's fucking purple, that doesn't tell me shit.
No, you just don't like my
Wow.
answer.
Good one, dude.
Well, what I will say that happens is I would like, I guess, as far as cross-examination goes, I think that sometimes we get one question out, and then there's an answer, but then that answer requires another question, but then there's kind of a gish galloping where we don't get to follow through. Because what I think happens in your position, I keep asking, why is something bad? This is the is from the ought thing that I talked about in my opening, right?
I
So
fucking
when you-
told you what my
Well,
ought is, dude.
No, not really. Because let's play a game. I'm gonna do something that you'll probably find very annoying. Okay, but
Okay.
I'm just gonna keep saying the word why. Okay, so when you say it's bad to outlaw homosexuality, why?
Because it impedes on someone else's freedom.
Why is it bad to impede on someone else's freedom?
Because we should be allowed to do what we want,
Why should we be allowed to do what we want?
so that we can live together successfully as a society,
Why is it good to live together successfully as a society?
so that we don't die.
Why shouldn't we die? Why are antinatalists wrong?
That's crazy. Why shouldn't we die?
Yeah.
We
What
have
if-
an instinct as a species to survive. There
Why
you go.
should we
Instinctively,
follow our
I feel
want
no
to survive.
obligation. I
No,
feel
no,
no
I'm not
obligation
done.
to
Let me
justify
do
why I
this
don't.
for like. Oh, sorry.
Why I don't wanna
understand
die?
you feel no obligation.
Yeah,
but when
I don't feel the
followed
obligation to
this-
justify that to you. I just don't. I don't want to die. If you want to kill me, then we'll have to have some words at best. But like at the end of the day, like it's no one's getting. We don't have to justify not wanting to die. Most people don't want to die. Everyone in chat knows they don't want to die. Some of them might want to die. I encourage them to call suicide
But
hotline.
why is that good? What if that's actually just extreme cowardice?
Okay,
What if
let me
the
do this back
earth-
to you. Why is your
Yeah, do it.
Orthodox Christian dogma right?
Because it was given to us by God,
But how do you know God is real?
divine revelation.
And logic.
What do you mean by divine revelation?
The divine revelation that he gave to mankind. That, and as Adam said, there are philosophical justifications and evidence for the impossibility of the contrary for God. This
Why do
reality
you trust
that
that?
we live
That
in
doesn't-
Well, yeah. Why do you trust that?
Why
How
do
do
I
you know
trust
that's
logic?
real?
it's logically sound
But plenty of people who are very
Why do you
logical
trust logic?
disagree.
I
because
trust
it's
logic
grounded
because
in
God gave
God.
me a rational mind.
And
Yeah, but why
logic
did
is
God
itself
give
Why
is
is that
grounded
matter?
in God.
Because
Because
I actually
logic
can
itself is
justify
grounded in
knowledge.
God.
I can justify that just
What if
based on
Satan
God.
is lying to
It
you?
doesn't sound. It sounds like you're now running into the
What
same
if this is the
situation we
devil
are.
deceiving you?
No, because every single
Because
her
it
coming
can't
down
contradict
to.
itself. If it contradicts itself, it can't come from God.
So did you notice, Ryan, how you refuse to give a justification for why we shouldn't die? And that's why I wanted to go down this tunnel, because eventually you'll throw your hands in the air. When you ask us why we shouldn't die, It's because we have a divine calling. We were made by God, and we have an actual ought behind these. You guys have.
So to be clear, I didn't say that I'm not going to give you. I said I don't want to die. I don't, and everyone in the chat knows they don't want to die, and we don't have to justify to you why we don't want to die. That's what I said, actually.
Yeah, you should have to justify that philosophically. Justify it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
I don't want to
justify.
Try and do something about a bitch.
I do feel strongly that you need to justify and whatever.
This
well,
is
and
a
again,
good time,
we can use.
I think I feel like we're gonna run into a circle here momentarily. So I'm just gonna be preventative maintenance, and we're gonna go into closing statements. We'll read and respond to some super chats, and then we'll open the panel up, and I think we'll be able to flush out a little bit more. What do you think? Everybody agreeable? All right, Charlie, would you like to kick us off with your closing statement, please?
Shit, I didn't think about what to say for my closing statement. I think that morality is subjective, and I believe that our morality is formed upon pro-social traits that we evolved to have, such as empathy and mutuality. The act of negotiating our individual moral codes is how we become better as a species, and I think the more pro-social we get, the better.
Thank you. Ryan, to you, sir.
Yeah, so they've been saying throughout that without some single objective metric for good and bad or good and evil, then we're not engaging in morality. But history shows that even those claiming an objective standard have always relied on the same process that we defend, which is interpreting principles, applying them to real situations, and revising when harm is revealed. Our model doesn't pretend there's a cosmic ruler everyone can agree on. It works because it's built on what all humans actually share: empathy, mutuality, and the responsibility to care for each other. That's how morality has always worked all throughout history. And it's the only kind that's ever driven moral progress, especially when faced with oppressive structures that tell us to deny those shared reality or those shared feelings because the creator of the universe doesn't like people scissoring or whatever.
Thank you, Ryan. Adam, to you.
Yeah, so the argument tonight was that morality has to exist as a transcendental category. We couldn't even get into any of any of the arguments for the fact that morality has to exist as a transcendental category, because from their worldview, it's just empathy. And it's like, well, how the fuck do we even measure empathy in the slightest? And it's like, well, I feel like you're being empathetic, and I feel like you're not being empathetic, which doesn't tell us fucking anything. It's just all about how I feel. Well, how you feel is not a transcendental. That's that right there. Feelings are subjective. I will 100% grant to you that your morality is subjective because it's based off of your fifis. Well, we don't give a shit about your feelings. We want the truth. Your fifis don't dictate whether or not the sky is blue, the ocean has water in it. That would be a transcendental objective truth. That's what we classify morality as. That has to exist outside of us. You guys couldn't even demonstrate that, anything exists, and you can even justify any kind of a knowledge claim whatsoever. It's just my feelings and my preferences. Well, nobody cares about your preferences or your feelings. And I'm hoping to have fun in the open panel.
Thank you, Adam. And Andrew said you have a really nice hat, by the way. Eli, to you, please.
Hey, I think that I feel like we got levied some condescension from the other side regarding our faith, so I'm going to dish out a little bit back. I think that the actual root of the issue here was a little too high tier for the opponents. I mean it respectively, but I would definitely look into what it means to justify a claim, to have an epistemological foundation for a claim, because all we got there a lot of ises, not a lot of oughts. We were told that the UN is the central negotiation palace where all of human morality will hopefully one day, once all the negotiation is done, give us our standard for morality. But again, they're not understanding that by their own metric. And I'm glad to know that Andrew might be listening, because I didn't want to just steal somebody else's argument, even though, he already totally demolished their worldview in the past. But basically, if anybody else uses their standard, they can just defeat their premise instantly. just by saying, well, we came to a negotiation table over here and we came to a different conclusion. And I was told that because of my small-minded Christian brain that I just can't understand that there's complexities and nuances in the world. I would argue that it is by the very virtue of there being complexities and nuances in the world, most people want to be able to objectively identify evil in order to be able to root it out. This requires a distinction between good and evil. Our side provides this, their side does not. So let's I've been sober for the formal part of the debate. I'm gonna crack a cold one and let's argue with some fools. Come on.
Well deserved.
I'm gonna go
for
crack
all
a
of
cold one as
you.
well. I'm gonna go
Well
grab one too.
deserved
I'll be
for
back.
all of you. Go for it. I am now dropping the open panel dumpster fire link into the chat. If anybody would like to start shuffling backstage for open panel, we will get through the super chats, and then we'll go ahead and open her up. If you want to, Charlie, if you wanted to step away and get a drink, feel free to do so. You earned it. Okay. First,
real quick?
What's that?
Because I know she's watching. Woman, can you get me a beer?
That's funny. New Guys is enjoying his new membership. Sarcastic Saint gifting out 5 Raging Tomato memberships. Congratulations to you, lucky lottery winners. Evan Lord, who is backstage per usual, says, Sarah, you are a biased mod. You love dogs, but you snub cats. My kitty Pepper is a dapper gentleman and is worthy of appreciation like Umbreon. Thank you, Sarah. I love all animals. I just prefer dogs over cats. D the Degenerate says, congrats on the 15K, 50K by Christmas. Let's manifest it now. We have 1 million subscribers and I make over $1 million a year. That's how I'm manifesting every day. I think that through. Red Door Woman with a $20 super sticker just to say, I love all of you. Great debate. Enjoyed the conversation. Thumping Weevil. I like her. I hope she pops on this evening. Morality is like common sense. Not everyone has it, unfortunately. That's fair. And please feel free to chime in. Try to keep it short and concise, but feel free to respond to anything that pops up. Bandit says insects are incapable of making moral decisions because they are incapable of choosing life over a bright light. That's a good point. The moth to the burning flame.
Yeah, but being capable of moral decisions is different than being like morally considerable, right?
Wait, say it again.
Like we can still consider them as a moral, like as something that we have moral consideration for, regardless of whether they themselves can experience that same process of consideration. Like Umbreon doesn't have a process for deciding what's moral, but I decide that like morally I want to like
Is that
through my
Umbreon
prize,
your
I decide,
dog?
yes.
Yeah.
I want to make sure he's okay and not harmed by anybody who might like hate dogs or whatever,
That's fair. That's fair. Lord Farquad says, if morality is subjective and my morality says it's fine to put you in grape cages, you cannot tell me it isn't moral to do so.
We can tell you, and
can I say that it's immoral? But I do want to. It doesn't bother me because every day when I stream, I'm used to men telling me that they want to cut off my head and then grape the whole. But I do think that sometimes it's in poor taste when a young lady is on the internet to start throwing out the what if I want to grape you. That's kind of crazy. Like it gets to be like a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Just want to say for the audience and I don't think any of the gentlemen did that here today. I actually brought up most of the gnarly stuff, but just a point.
And on this point, technically, yeah, as she just did, she can say with her mouth it is immoral. But when we go down the Y tunnel, like we did before, we eventually end up with because man, and not any actual substantial justifying reason.
Which we have determined that sexual assault is dehumanizing. Our society has determined this.
What was those cum warriors of Papua New Guinea? They would say something.
They actually stopped practicing. They stopped doing that after they were exposed to the outside world. So they negotiated their own moral codes with.
They probably watched your videos.
W negotiation. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible negotiation, and no
Wow.
one had to be murdered for it. These men realized, wow, maybe what was done to me as a child was wrong, and I should not do it to other children. And maybe women aren't inherently evil, so we don't need to separate young boys from women. They
not go
won't be
that far.
tainted by the evil of women because women are not innately evil.
Yes, we are. Crucible Crusader with a big 10 to get it started, Sarah. Yes, thank you for hitting that goal. I was a little nervous you guys weren't going to hit it off the nose. I was getting disappointed. Sarcastic saying with another 10, blah 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 blah. That's all I hear. Ryan went to change his diaper and Charlie still looks like she needs a blood transfusion. So nothing has changed. I love playing Yahtzee. It's a good game. Yeah, okay. Thumpy Weevil says, Sarah, get a drink on me. I don't have any alcohol in the house, but thank you. Thank you very kindly. I need to go stock or something. Cleaner says, all temptations are just that. Doesn't matter if you were genetically born with them or you learn them in life. God ascribes that we resist temptations.
Like alcohol?
Well, I mean, it's a temptation.
We have an idea called economia. So if, let's say, for example, in the hypothetical, Ryan really struggled with, like, let's say he's a former alcoholic, right? But I could just drink it, it never really affected, my taking care of my family or fulfilling my duties. Then it would not be sinful for me to engage in having a beer or two. Whereas if Ryan cracked a bottle of whiskey and then, he went on a bender for a couple weeks, that would be sinful for him because he can't resist the temptation.
Wait, would that be true for gay people too? If they're just having like gay sex, and it's not like interrupting their day-to-day lives, they're just enjoying gay sex?
No, that's not the same idea.
Why?
Oh, fascinating.
Why?
Because just the act of alcohol touching the lips isn't sinful, but the act of pee to poo poo is.
I do want to know
Or
why that
pussy to
is
pussy.
precisely, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like the is not the premise of it, which is like needless
It is it's denying the purpose of
indulgence.
sex.
It's
Because-
it's
well,
the
I
same
mean,
reason it would be
alcohol
sinful
is
for
a
me to hit
poison.
myself. Well, it's the same reason that it's sinful for me to hit myself in the head with a hammer. It's not what my body was designed for. It's an
Well,
abuse of my
orgasming is
body.
not I'm just gonna go from what I know is that when I have sex with a woman, there's no harm done. It's just orgasming.
Right, but your body was designed for a man by God.
I actually
don't think it
that
was. Why do I have a
homosexuals can
clitoris
actually have
then?
sex. I don't think homosexuals can actually have sex. I think it's just mutual masturbation at that point.
What's the clitoris for then?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Do you
Design
find it
the
immoral?
clitoris.
Do you find it immoral that African tribes cut off women's clitoris?
Yeah, that's crazy and evil.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's awful. They shouldn't. They ought not do that. There we go. Some
we
agreement.
agree.
Some
But if
agreement.
somebody
They ought
comes
not
to a
do it.
negotiation that it's not evil,
I'm also
why are they
against
wrong?
male circumcision. I'm fully against male circumcision.
But
Save
if
the
somebody comes to a
foreskins.
negotiation that it's not
one hoodie
evil,
she
why
can't
are they
steal.
wrong?
Huh? Why are they?
So that's
wrong
one
if
hoodie
they
she can't steal.
negotiate?
Yeah, no, yeah. If they have a negotiation as you
I
two
got
just
it.
did,
Uh-huh.
then again, negotiation is a terrible justifying.
Well, it's
metric,
unfortunately
so.
how the world works.
Right. So whenever they negotiate and they say that it's actually not evil, then I guess it's not evil anymore, per your standard.
Well, they're actually having to negotiate with all of the feminist groups in Africa that are against that because there are movements to stop female circumcision. So
Yep.
they're having to
Now-
negotiate with them and the rest of the world who is like, whoa, that's crazy. You can't cut off clits.
Right. And whenever those feminists lose the
evil, right?
negotiation, anyway, go ahead.
All
They
right,
did for a long
K2
time,
keep
right?
on trucking. Says Sarah, I'm going to need to start buying a carton of American Spirits instead of individual packs now due to my new nicotine addiction because of your show. Sorry, K2. I know we just keep it lit over here. Christopher says, can consequences be used to measure morality?
I think that consequences can be indicative of the majority's morality.
Yeah, or we can use the idea of like things we know to be consequential. We can use that when considering what we decide is good or bad, like morally. Like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
it could be part of the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
in a steel manning of their position, I see where they would get that. Well, we empirically verify that if you do this, that this consequence happens, that this consequence happens. But again, those are is statements, not ought statements.
Fair enough. Thumping Weevil says, read the Bible before you lean on the word of God in a debate.
I will say that I have. As a child, I did read the entire Bible when I was 10. I don't remember what edition. It was whatever edition my dad had in the house. But also, so was it Lot that wanted
Lot,
to have?
yes. It was Lot.
Why didn't you guys know about Lot? I thought that
I'm
was
stuck
like
with
Bible
names. Okay,
101.
I'm terrible with names.
That's okay.
God would be
Happens to the
disappointed.
rest of us.
It took me like 2 months to actually remember the name of both my deacons. Okay, they were just Father Deacon.
And I want to make one little disclaimer that I try to do anytime. I'm here to defend the Christian position, but I always I try to stay as far away from teaching the dogma myself, because that's a priest's job. So
neither of us speak on behalf of the church.
Exactly. And so
totally
and anybody who's interested in Orthodox, what we really believe, don't take my word for it. Don't take an online Talking Faces word for it. Please go to your church, ask your priest, get catechized. Don't take it from me. Go through catechesis, then come listen to me, Babylon.
Yeah, don't listen to us. We're chief among sinners.
There you go.
Fair enough. Mike Ball says, my feelings.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I agree it's our feelings, but I think it's the same for them. Their feelings they decide to outsource their morality. They feel that they should outsource their morality, but it still ultimately comes down to a feeling at the end of the day.
What if I do
just
things that I
deny
don't
it,
want
right?
to do? I feel like I don't want to do them, but I still should do them.
Yeah. The Orthodox, this is what I think the biggest misunderstanding is that when you really do get into specifically Orthodoxy, it's all about asceticism, fasting, denial of your initial impulse,
feelings.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's to think that we just all feel this oh man, don't gays just suck. Yeah, let's all get together. And, it's actually an introspective, trying to, I'm not going to get into it, but it's a straw man.
I mean, is that not the premise of kind of Christianity at its root? I always forget. Is it Augustine of Hippo or Alexander of Hippo? But he was kind of the guy that Michel Foucault has sourced as the one who kind of did the whole spirit body split in Christianity, in which your body with its temptations is kind of trying to constantly pollute you, and to keep your spirit clear, you must resist your bodily desires, which is I mean,
Well,
some
it's
of
not
it can
all
make
of them.
sense.
We're not to, if you're hungry, you're not to starve yourself, but it's the reason we fast is to deny the temptations of engaging in a massive steak, right? Where it's oh, dude, that looks so good and I just want it, but we're trying to deny the earthly desires that are unnecessary.
Yeah, but it's because you feel that the end result outweighs that initial feeling. You're overriding one feeling with your feeling that the result will be better. Yeah.
I would say it's a factual thing that because again, it's not viewed as a sin to not fast. It's just a recommendation of the church. But it's like an exercise, you would go to the gym to exercise a muscle. If you're going to resist the temptations of actual sin, fasting is a way to condition the body to be stronger against the temptations of sin. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Amazing Grace says, Silent Scream was created in the early 80s. The Medical Association won't allow a more recent version because women would be horrified.
What is Silent Scream?
Yeah, I don't know what that
I don't know what that was either. I figured maybe because I live under a rock, somebody else would.
Film?
I don't know.
Let me message my papa.
Silent Scream is what I'm doing every time I want to say something and can't because I don't want to interrupt.
It's an abortion.
It's
Silent Scream. It's an old abortion film, apparently.
Oh,
okay.
Defund the UN and NATO because they're useless. Let's take that money we will get from that and deport Ryan and Charlie back to Weetard land. Bye. All right. Bye. BB says the definition of morality is objective, regardless of personal morals. Blind empathy is why drug addicts and repeat felons are destroying blue cities.
Blue cities is redundant. There aren't any red cities, so.
Yeah, I would also argue actually that I feel that it is not empathy. you know, like for instance, I lived in Portland for a bit, and what they did
I'm
was
sorry.
they I know, me too. I hate Portland. They decriminalized all drugs, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. But I think what you do need to do is you need to make rehab extremely affordable and really put your money into making programs to get people clean, to get them jobs, housing, training, etc. And Portland didn't do that at all. Like a lot of like nonprofit orgs just took all of the money that was supposed to go into those programs and just didn't distribute it. They ate it up. So that was not empathy. That was greed. It is greed that destroys blue cities and, you know, allows our streets to be populated with people with drug addictions, people who are homeless and have mental health issues. It's horrible. And a lot of European cities, not like that. We have the means. We're just greedy.
Fair enough. Empathy is the number one way hustlers scam naive people. I really wanted to, I didn't want to, but I wanted to push back on the empathy argument you were making, because empathy can be like the death of something. Like you can actually have so much empathy and like if I approached a dog that was laying there in the street because it got hit by a car and I feel bad, I want to walk up to it and approach it. And then I get there and then it turns and like bites me and tears my arm apart. Like that empathy gets me in trouble. So I don't think everything can be derived from empathy. I don't think it should be your starting point. I think it should be an afterthought to a degree. To the Christy Cucks, if God's morality is objective, then why are you not following the 613 commandments?
Oh, I didn't know I was Jewish.
Just a quick response to what you were saying, Sarah. I don't think that empathy would be an afterthought. I think empathy would be something that you have to then, it's an initial thing you feel empathy, and then you can logic out like, well, okay, I feel bad for this dog, but I don't necessarily need to act on that. I can logic out whether it would be safe for me to go take care of this dog, right? Like, so it's not an afterthought. It's a precursor still.
But your teammates' entire argument, at least the foundation of morality, was on the expansion of empathy. Like, as long as empathy is growing, then there must be good afoot. That's not always true. So where do you draw the line?
I agree completely because, again, like I said, empathy can be used negatively, and we can use our logic like we do. We all feel emotions, but as you get older, you learn how to express those emotions logically. So like if I, see like a dog with a frothing, froth around its mouth, but it looks like it's hurt. I would be like, oh no, baby dog. Oh no. But I would also go, you know what? I should not approach stray dogs. I should probably call like animal control and be like, hey, I think there's a dog that's hurt here. It's like okay. I'm using my logic and my empathy. And
if I saw a dog that was foaming at the mouth in like, in an area where there's other people, that dog's getting a slug put right through it because it's now a danger to everybody around it.
I mean, that's also fair, but I don't carry a gun.
I want to say one quick point just to make some common ground. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with this process that you guys are talking about, but I think that what you're describing is how an individual, kind of ought to navigate through the world utilizing certain principles, right? But this is useless when applied when you zoom out and apply that to society and to a large group of people. These are all super effective for walking down the sidewalk, but runs into a host of metaphysical and epistemological issues when it comes to governing a society or telling a group of people how to be.
Well, I mean, I would push back on that because, again, I do think that, this is not how we have expanded.
You just can't account for when someone disagrees with you. You just say, well, I'll just negotiate all of us to one conclusion.
Well,
and
I don't
that's
think
a naive
that,
view of the
women getting rights was an appeal to the objective Orthodox Christian dogma. I don't think that, children... Like us making it so children need to be in schools, cannot be put to work when they're 5, should not be beaten by their parents, should not be sexually assaulted. I don't think that we like it wasn't the Orthodox Christian dogma that determined that. It was people of many faiths, some atheists, some not, coming together and going, wow, actually, you know what? We should have empathy for children and understand that these are little beings who should be protected and not harmed. You know what I mean?
I guess so, but like just because they weren't citing Christianity but they're appealing to something that is good. In our worldview, there's an ontological grounding of good that we can use to accurately determine good and evil in more complex situations. Again, your side cannot account for what you should do when someone disagrees with you, and then they get the majority. Like, as long as you're in the majority, you can say that you're doing fine. But the second that your personal definition of morality is in the minority, you don't actually have anything to appeal to say why they are objectively wrong.
Well, we can
I
start
would
by
throw a
protesting.
fit. I mean, protesting.
not
It is because I
great.
feel that empathy for whatever group or people that I am protesting for so strongly that I want this to end.
Well, good luck with that.
Fair enough.
I mean, that's how we get everything.
Ricky sending the Big Ten just to send sweet love and hearts. BB says, back on the prompt, people, morality is a definition and is objective, regardless of thoughts, feelings, and emotions.
Obviously, we disagree.
Jeff says, if morality is subjective, they are arbitrary and therefore they don't exist, just whims.
We don't
No,
exist.
because we can absolutely
They
differentiate.
meant morality
between
doesn't
reference-
exist.
But whatever you claim to be your morals.
No,
They
but
only
we can
exist in your head. They don't exist outside of your head.
I mean, yeah, it's a construct.
Right.
It is a construct that we invented in our brains and then all agreed upon together.
Except we don't all agree
Like
upon it.
language.
Not even close.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah, but we all agree that morality exists. That everyone that there is morality in the
I
world.
don't agree that you actually believe morality exists the way that it does exist. I disagree with
I
you.
think
Yeah.
that we're going to have to disagree then. But it's a
Yeah, we don't
construct.
agree with your proprietary definition of
It's
morality.
not something
so-
that we can
No,
feel with our hands.
Again-
a tree we can feel with our hands. Yes, our idea of it, the word for tree.
But-
Yes, those are constructs, but I cannot touch morality. Where do
No,
I touch
but-
it? Where do I touch it? Words are
Well-
wind.
We never claimed that it was something that it can be empirically demonstrated as well. The metaphysical.
Empathy doesn't have to be malicious in order to be harmful. Are you really gonna go hug those bear cubs in the woods?
No,
I mean, maybe. I was
that's
thinking
my-
about it.
That's my logic.
I'm not
to
gonna lie, I
not
would do
hug
that
the
if
bear.
somebody dared me to. Probably.
I was thinking about it. A couple beers would
Bob
make me do it.
Bob says morality is subjective. I say it's moral to punch Bob in the face. Bob says it's immoral. If Bob was being intellectually honest, then my morality is just as moral / correct as Bob's.
No, it would be acknowledging
you.
that nullity absent nothing would be have a different moral code, but that doesn't mean it's one that I appreciate or enjoy.
It doesn't
And
matter if you
unfortunately,
appreciate or enjoy it.
because our society has negotiated that randomly assaulting people is wrong. This person would suffer consequences. Again, I know that that's like
Until it doesn't.
that these are ises, but I also think that these are odds.
Well.
Fair enough. To the sad Christicux, without going to the Old Testament, cite one verse in the New Testament that promotes procreation.
Well, I guess there's not one like Genesis that says directly to be fruitful and multiply, but what the fuck does that prove? I mean, we take both, so it talks about how to, accurately love your wife and how to be respectful to your wife, and there's procreation all bound up in that. So,
Amazing Disgrace says empathy never built a nation, nor will it sustain a society. I think empathy can
Not
be a
true.
very big weakness. I even have a concept of like the weakest links are actually holding a society back, and if you empathize and do everything to keep them just right where they are, just enough, and they can't help themselves, you're actually dragging
Well,
society backwards.
I would disagree because we live to old age now. So at the end of the day, mentally and physically, we will become weak. And I don't think that means that, because like my grandparents may not be able to walk as well as they used to, maybe can't walk at all, or maybe their brains are a little bit more gone, their hearing's gone. I don't think that we should like execute them for holding us back. I think that we should love them. I also feel that that's like, is that not Christian? Will the meek not inherit the earth?
Now you're utilizing the morality of Christianity in order to prevent us from killing our grandparents. Congratulations.
Well, no. I'm trying to demonstrate to you that your worldview does seem to emphasize that we should care for others, even if they're not productive members of society. That we should care for the meek and the weak.
No,
Well, yeah, but from
Right?
your
Right.
worldview, if the consensus came up that we shouldn't, there's no you can't tell them that they're wrong.
and we
No,
can
I would say that
justify why.
it's not an adequate application of morality, and I would raise a fuss because I want my moral code to be the moral code of the world, just as you want your moral code to be the moral code of the world. Even
Oh,
if you're appealing
listen
to
that
God.
admission. Listen to that admission. It's not
I mean, it's
our
also
moral
yours.
code. I don't own. I
literally
don't
your
own-
position
You don't own
as well.
Christian ethics.
It is
Yes.
your position that you have subjectively,
not-
as an individual, decided to believe. You
It's
have
not located in
individually
my mind.
de-
Well, hold on,
It's
even if
located
that's the case,
outside of my
even if
mind.
that's the case, that I subjectively
You have the free
came
will.
to it.
You have the free will to believe these
You
things. or
literally
not
just
believe these
admitted you
things.
wanted to impose your view on the entire world. Like when you talk about arrogance, you really think you have it all figured out and you need no help.
Hold on,
That's
so I
not-
have a
Because
question.
it would be
Humility.
continued negotiation. It would be
Charlie, is
continued
your flat-
negotiation.
3
Now
more.
if
We're
that-
opening the panel, and then you guys can have some fun. Q-Tard says, I cook bacon in the microwave. I believe this is 110% immoral. What say you? You should burn in hell,
That's a
Q-Tard.
1,000%
I'll allow it.
immoral.
No,
Yeah.
that's down
Straight-
home.
that's
That's
straight
down
hell.
mama
I
used
feel
to do
like
it,
that's
baby.
unsanitary.
No.
Isn't that kind of like?
No, you
Wouldn't
know
that
what my
mean
mama
you
did?
cook
You know what
bacon?
my mama did? She cut 2 triangles in a paper plate and pushed them together and put paper towels over that sucker. And when that freaking microwave was billowing out steam, I knew it was time to get up. Let's go. I'm with you.
God.
sweetheart.
Where are
Just
you
put it in-
from?
What the fuck's wrong with you people?
Yes,
We
you
was
can just
born.
burn. Now, I like putting it
The
in
bacon
the,
did burn
the
sometimes,
oven,
right?
actually. But
That's even worse. I take the microwave away.
No,
It's
no.
gotta be fried
trust
in
me.
a pan
No,
from there
slow
with the
cook
ham
it.
and the egg.
Slow
grease.
cook it in the
What?
oven. Trust me. Put a sheet out. Like
That's how my mom makes the bacon. That's why I
mid-level
like it when my
heat.
dad makes breakfast. It's way fucking better.
Oh, no.
Wait. Do you have a Sarah? Do you have a link to the open panel thing?
Yeah, I can drop it in
Do
the
you
back
mind if I
chat
share
for
it
you.
with my
It's the same
audience?
link. It's the same link that I sent to you, if that makes it easier.
Okay.
But I'm
Oh.
gonna
Yes,
Bring
yes,
on the
yes.
horde. Bring on the horde.
Oh no, I'm streaming on Kick. I'm streaming on Kick and YouTube today, so it's much smaller.
If they try to
Um,
jump in right now, it might tell them it's full because I know I got a full backstage right now.
Yeah, I
but
got a
that
buddy
doesn't-
backstage who's trying to join. Or
Yeah,
he's not
it's
backstage. He's trying to get there.
the little thing's been going off like the last 20 minutes, just people trying to jump in, but it's full, and I got a lot of seats back there. It's just full. Brainbender says, Sarah, you do well at controlling the panel and over speaking so we can understand and follow. I hope I do, and I hope I do
I
it
agree.
well enough.
I agree, Sarah.
The way I explain my show when people ask, so what kind of show do you do? I'm like, I just yell at people and tell them to shut the fuck up. It works.
That's fair.
Last
love
one. Nicholas says, legalize all drugs to tempt addicts, then use the very money they spend on a free rehab instead of just denying them the drug to begin with.
Well, the
Uh,
issue with that is that like people will, if they have an addiction, they will seek out drugs. It is also like when someone's body becomes dependent upon a specific drug or poison, if it is stopped suddenly, they can die, which is not what we want, of course. I do think that people, and I feel this very, I come from my mom's side has a lot of people who have struggled with addiction. And I do think that extending empathy and love to those people is really important. You know, no one is a lost cause. There are substances that are highly addictive that people can just get trapped in. And it can often start with like maybe you break your leg and then, you know, the doctor puts you on an opioid and then you get hooked and then that's suddenly cut off. And then you're, I don't know, seeking heroin because your body needs it. Like it's, I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
That's
You
fair.
could be based like my dad and just say, nah, fuck that. I'll just deal with the 5 herniated discs.
That's what I do.
That's
I herniate-
insane.
I slip a disc at least every 3 months.
I have a herniated disc too. I've never taken
Sarah!
one, but-
I've been there. Then
Right.
I was
You
there. It
know?
happened to me a couple years ago. Worst pain of my life.
It's what I did a couple weeks
Daily
ago.
sciatica, man.
Really pushed it
Yeah.
out. The sciatica, ooh, it's the worst when you feel it in your knee.
So bad, dude.
Uh,
Check out
God.
Mine
Bob
goes
and
literally
Brad.
all
Bob
down
and Brad
to
on
the elbows.
YouTube saved my life, dude. I had no medical coverage or anything, but Bob and Brad on YouTube literally changed my life. I could not move, or I had to move. I had to walk for like 2 months straight because I couldn't sleep. Like I just had to walk around constantly to alleviate the pain. But Bob and Brad helped me out.
Jesus
Ice
Christ,
on the
Ryan.
back, feet up on a pillow. It usually does the trick. All right, let's kick
I
off
get
the
drunk.
open panel dumpster fire. That can help because it actually relaxes your muscles, and that is the part that actually is triggering the nerve. It's not the herniated disc. That's not the problem. It's the
It's a
muscle
cycle.
spasming. All right, let's fuck it up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are all very familiar with this panel, how we operate. Actually, everyone has been here once before. That means I shouldn't have to fucking tell any of you my rules because you already know it. Sean Wick actually just joined us for our last chill stream panel. Welcome back, Sean. You're ready to take on the brute force of the open panel dumpster fire. He had it nice and easy last round. But you all know interruption, bad. It's like talking over me, bad. If I'm reading a super chat and you start yip yapping, bad. If you keep talking up against me and being disrespectful to me, very bad. I am not here to be your enemy. I am here to be your friend. Choose wisely or fuck off. All right, I'm going to go ahead. Corinth, you were the first one backstage. Go ahead and kick us off, sir.
Sir, is that like bad in an objective sense or a subjective sense?
You want to find out?
No, I don't. Okay. Eli, the definition you gave for morality earlier, it seemed to be the delineation is between good and bad, not on if the system is true and if the system's not true. This would allow for subjective moral systems to be moral systems still, just trivializing the prompt.
No, I disagree. I think that subjective moral systems cannot make a distinction, and the definition requires a distinction.
I mean, they're giving the distinction between good or bad in the subjective sense relative to whatever normative standard they put forward.
But if good and bad can just be switched around and you can inject
in a different
one
standard.
thing can be good and one thing can be evil, then it's not meaningful. Sure,
That's in a different standard.
Technically, is it technically? Yeah, well, I think it has to be meaningful in order for it to apply in the ways that we apply morality.
It's still meaningful if we take this thing,
No,
it
it's
implies this other thing. This is giving us antecedent consequent relationship of the moral system here.
No,
You're just saying this thing isn't an objective system, which trivially it's not.
Well, this is on the presupposition that good and evil are also subjective, right? So, like, you can't make a distinction between good and evil if one person says one thing is good, but another person says it could also be evil. How do you determine who's correct between those systems?
They're not universalizing it. They're still making the distinction within the system, and that's the point. All it's doing is taking within the system.
So,
it's not making
again,
some
this is why it's not
universal
meaningful.
standard.
This is why it's not meaningful, because if one person can determine one thing is good by their standard, and then another person can determine another thing is evil by their standard, there has to be an objective rule breaker in order for it to be meaningful.
Why does there have to be an objective rule breaker? I can give you an easy case here. I am X amount of feet from Ryan right now. You are X amount of feet from Ryan right now as well. These are both objective things. We are both there. We're just not universalizing it.
Yep.
So within the system, we're making the distinction there. But this doesn't maintain across all cases. This would be a case of it being subjective in terms of it's indexed to a given subject or an index to a given normative system.
Well, are you using measurement in order to determine how far away we are from Ryan?
I'm using units, just carte blanche unit.
Right. So in the subjective moral system, there is no units. It's just feelings and preference.
That is
and
a unit.
Doesn't, well, it's not a meaningful one because
You
if
can
it-
say
like,
it's
if
not
I-
meaningful, but this is
well-
going to just get into value theory. You just
Well, so
disagree
here's
on
what I'm
value
getting at. Here's what
theory.
I'm getting at with your analogy here. So if you say you are X distance from Ryan, and then I come up and say, no, really, you're at, like, you say I'm 5 feet from Ryan. I come up and go, actually, no, you're 20 feet from Ryan. How do we know who's right?
Oh, we're not saying I'm 20 from Ryan, because that's just saying, well, internally to my own system, I'm incorrect on a thing. You're giving an external critique. You're saying, no, I'm not 20 feet from Ryan. I'm 50 feet from Ryan because Ryan likes the gays a little too much. I'm going to stay away from that guy. Corinth likes him a little bit more. Corinth will get closer. We're fine with that. We're objectively saying the same thing. We're saying in our given system, given the subject we're talking about, given the normative system we're talking about, we come up with this conclusion. You're simultaneously trying to critique, well, that system doesn't apply in all cases, and someone else can have a different system that allows it, just like you can be a different person who's a different distance away from Ryan. But we're still able to say, well, in this system, we're able to delineate, am I this distance from Ryan? We're able to determine this thing.
Okay, again, I guess, forgive me if I'm not understanding what you're bringing up here, but like in the same analogy, there are different units of measurement, sure. But again, I'm arguing for there has to be a unit of measurement in order to make a distinction between what distance we are from Brian, whether you're using feet or, yards or whatever. The meaningfulness is once we have a unit of measurement, then we can do things like build a house or, apply it to all the various ways that we use measurement. But if you say, well, you know what, everybody can have their own unit of measurement, you're never going to build anything. You're never going to have.
They are.
building
They're giving
codes
you
or
the unit of
anything like that.
measurement. They're giving you emotivism.
You're giving
is
me
something
theirs.
Ryan's approximate.
You're giving me
Yeah,
theirs.
that's
and
the unit of measurement. You're saying,
Okay.
oh, they're giving a different one than the one I'm
Okay,
using.
so if I come up with a new unit of measurement tomorrow that only I truly know the distance between this and this, how am I ever going to build a house with that unit of measurement?
We're not saying that we're building a house, but this
Building a
definition
house
you
is
gave
creating a moral system for
You're giving
society.
an epistemic critique to this thing.
You probably have
Do
to
I
teach
have
people,
access
right?
to the knowledge of the unit of measurement putting forward? That's
Yes, I
not
am giving
him
an
as saying
epistemic
that
critique.
you're not using a unit of measurement, which is what
I am
you were
giving
trying to
epistemic
imply from
critique.
that.
I'm saying that they
And that's
have no
distinct from
epistemology.
given a moral system. You're giving, okay, that is a moral system, then I just don't know that moral system, which is
Again,
a
it's a-
completely different claim than what you're trying to make.
It is a moral system insofar as you can call it one, but it has no meaningful application.
And it met the criteria of the definition you put forward
No.
at the beginning of the debate,
No, because
insofar as it's able to distinguish between good or bad.
It is not able to distinguish between good and bad in two objecting personal moral systems. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's not what they're putting forward. We're not saying can each subjective thing come to an
Right.
objective conclusion. That's not what was
Right.
put forward by your definition. It was, does the system have an ability to determine good or bad? And I can ask Ryan how he feels about any given moral claim. Ryan, how do you feel about murder, good or bad?
Generally bad.
How do you feel about hugging Umbreon, good or bad?
I think it's good, necessary.
Yeah, see, he's able to give the distinction. You might
Right.
think, oh, I don't agree with that conclusion, but that doesn't mean Ryan isn't
No.
using a moral system.
No.
You just don't think that moral system is true,
No,
which is a
here's the
fundamentally
thing.
different claim.
He's not giving a distinction. Here's the thing. Whenever you're using a
Was saying
subjective moral
good and bad
system-
not a distinction between good and bad?
No, just saying it doesn't making a distinction. So
It is
whenever
definitely
he
making a
says
distinction.
no, whenever he is saying that, you act in a subjective moral system. You don't actually need a distinction because you're feeling he instantly
That is
knows
the
that.
distinction.
There's no comparison. There's no.
That is the distinction.
It's not a distinction. It's an assertion.
The internal mental state you get from these actions is a distinction between these two actions.
It's an assertion.
Or do you think
not
that
a
those two
distinction.
mental states are identical? Do you think Ryan
What two
feels
mental
identically about hugging his dog as he feels about murder?
Depends on who I'm
Feels
murdering.
like- well, yeah. Well, I don't know what you mean by
You're
that.
murdering
Feels
me.
identically.
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't kill Corinth. I like Corinth.
46
Yeah,
dog just want to
I'm
be
talking
hugged in that
about.
moment.
So, well, whenever I'm talking about distinction, I will admit I am implying that there is what we call a philosophically real distinction. And if you look up what it means to have a philosophically real distinction, it's between two ontologically real things. So if by the nature of you not believing that good and evil actually has an ontological property, then you're not making a real distinction.
Does evil have ontology?
Hey, I was just going to ask the same thing.
Yeah, again, well, not in our worldview, but in evil action. Though.
Okay, so evil doesn't have ontology, yet you need
Not the way that
distinction.
good does. Now let me be clear. So in ontological, between let's say an evil action and a good action. Now a good action is good because good has ontology, but an evil action, again, evil is the privation of good, at least in my system.
So it doesn't have ontology because evil doesn't have ontology.
Well, but an evil action
there's not that distinction.
So I can just change it to an evil action, and it's.
But that's not the distinction you just asked for. You asked for a philosophically real distinction on a thing you don't think has a philosophically real distinction of.
Well, okay, but that's again. So again, it's different
last
levels.
Point
of
from Corinth, and then he has to get booted back to the backstage.
Last point. Cats are better than dogs. Sarah, you're wrong.
Take that shit back. I changed my position on murdering Corinth.
Dogs rule, cats rule. All right, Corinth, hang backstage for a little bit, and we'll see you in a bit. Okay. All right. Who? Effigy. I know you got something to tag in on this one.
Oh, I was going to give other people a chance because I was just going to roll through my graded hits, man.
All right.
Yeah.
I am a bit curious about
right now,
Brian and Charlie, and would you guys kind of base your morals off of the Humanist Manifesto?
There we go. Oh, I'm in. You can.
I have read.
Steven, shut up.
And it seemed actually, I feel like the Humanist Manifesto was pretty short. I very recently read it, and I was like, yeah, I mostly agree with most of this. It seems right.
I haven't read it, so I can't say for sure.
But I don't follow it because
So you can have a target to throw something at. Like we don't have to bring up the Humanist Manifesto to actually have this argument.
Well, no. I mean, my point being here is that there's some good points in the Humanist Manifesto that they both. Well, Ryan hasn't read it, but Charlie agrees with, right? And part of that is
completely. It's not a.
And you guys actually did it in your little debate between each other, saying, "Hey, we both have an idea, and we don't necessarily agree. So let's have a discussion, and let's come to a conclusion with that discussion, right?" And in that particular case, that was subjective, and you guys were taking your two subjective ideas and trying to come up with something that comes together. Correct?
Yep.
Sure.
And is your ultimate goal for the best of humanity?
Sure, but I don't think
more or less. But I mean,
what is going to be best for humanity.
Yeah. That phrase is doing a lot of work there. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. We do it every day, right? I mean, we've got secularists, we've got Christians. We're all trying to work to find our common ground.
Yeah.
But it's
not
still
all
subjective.
Of us are working to find common ground, but yeah.
And would you not say? I mean, you would think that my ideas are subjective. So, but ultimately, would you not think that there's an ultimate objective truth that you're coming to? Because based on what you guys are doing right now, is saying, hey, there's two of us. We're trying to come up with our subjective ideas and our commonality. Our ultimate goal is to get to the objective truth. But eventually, I mean, right now,
objective truth is just reality.
I
like
would
you guys keep talking about like it's something we can like pull out of the air and touch, like this objective morality, this objective truth. Like that's just reality. Anything you try to call objective, that's just reality. So that's what we ground things in when we say objective. You guys try to make it like link back to a God, but when we say we can ground morality and objectivity, it's because morality comes from us. Morality starts with our moral intuitions and emotions that we have evolved, and then
let's
we
do
come
a
through
thought
moral
experiment
reasoning,
on
and
that,
then
right?
we
And
slap
remove
moral ideology
and
on top of it.
remove religion from it, right? So we get a quick glimpse of the future, 100 years in the future, and we find out, both Ryan and Charlie find out, in 100 years, if we don't kill these 2 billion people, all of humanity will stop. It'll be dead, right? So now we actually have an objective truth. We know that we looked in the future that if we don't, and half of those people are good, half of those people are bad. There's no criteria on those 2 billion people that have to be killed. Would it be moral or immoral to kill those people?
Could I ask for a more realistic hypothetical?
Right.
No, this is a great hypothetical.
It's not
just
hypothetical.
your moral
like
background.
It's not really going to be like a
like you can't
this-
change the future.
Like this
My
is
answer
like
would be I'd have to think about it.
supposing
I don't
that
know.
we have like I don't know the ability to look into time, and also the idea that these specific 2 million people ought to die. It just feels like a bit too out there. Do you have any?
No, I mean, you guys basically said
similar-
your moral views are based on two things: feelings and logic.
Yep.
Now, when you actually start thinking about logic, you've got to look at like hypotheticals. Like logically, hypothetically, if this were to happen, then how would it make me feel, right? So in a hypothetical, we can go to the future and say, if you were given this information, Charlie, if you were given this information, you knew it 100%, because, and we can use science, we don't have to use religion. Somehow you ended up with that scientific device that threw you 100 years in the future, and you found out that 2 billion people have to be killed today. Would it be moral or would it be immoral for you to kill those people? I can tell you, both our moral views of Christians and you would say today killing people is wrong. But if all of humanity is going to cease to exist, and this is testing your morals. This is not a crazy hypothetical. It is testing your morals.
So,
Well, you're asking
say
me
if
to
I
kill a
like
bunch of
maybe
people,
had to
and
like
how would I
flood
do
the
this?
earth to kill those people.
It doesn't matter. Maybe all the world governments get together and assassinate good people and bad people just to make sure that in 100 years, all
just
humanity
flood the earth and kill all the bad people,
Right?
kill bad people to build boats. Yeah.
Nullity says, "Don't be like Bob. He thinks morality is subjective, but if he was intellectually honest and see others' morality is correct as his own, everyone, whether PDFs, I don't know, is just as
Essay
moral."
unaliving. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I was like,
I was trying to figure out what the fuck that meant.
To engage
Fair
with
enough.
it though. Oh yeah.
Go ahead and engage with it, and then I have an announcement too.
Yeah, I mean, like we can. There's a some level we can say that everyone's morality is like it's almost like tautologically true. Like everyone's morality is their morality, right? And so therefore it exists on the same kind of plane as what we're identifying here. But that doesn't mean that like in practicality we have to accept everyone's morality in every situation. Like part of the negotiation would be like, hey, we're not going to allow people to do these certain things, even if their morality permits it. So like,
Then why should we accept yours?
Well, you don't have to, but we're not going to accept yours either.
No, this is the greatest example.
Greatest
example of hypocrisy, and I just pointed out. No one seems to have noticed. Like I just turned this right around on you guys. You guys want to give us these weird hypotheticals that lead to genocide. I just showed you a genocide in the past that probably all of you would agree is a moral act, right? The flood, like in your stories. Like, was that a moral act? It was a genocide.
Well, first off, Apogee, I actually taking religion out of this.
get in
I am
the
going
way of
100% in their worldview. And sorry, Sarah.
That's okay. Let me. I'm going to go ahead and announce we are moving over to the Gauntlet. I'm going to drop the link one more time in the chat. Start moving over now. Otherwise, you're just going to have to catch the raid wave over. Go on over. I am disconnecting the tomato chat. Now move to the Gauntlet. It's at the Gauntlet debate. Go now or go home. Okay. And then
I am
also and then also Amazing Disgrace says all men are created equal. Is that subjective? There's no room for individual perspective.
I don't know how to answer that. Anyway, Vibe, I'll answer. To be honest, if someone said, Charlie, you have to push this button to kill 2 billion people, or the world will end in however many years, I'd be like, well, that's a lot of responsibility. I don't know if I'm ready to be responsible for 2 billion people and their deaths. I don't know if I want that blood on my hand. So, frankly, I would force someone else to make that decision for me because I'm not ready to be a murderer. Now, mind you, Vibe,
Yeah,
are you
and I
religious?
agree with that. Like, I wasn't even putting it on
Are you
you.
religious, man? Vibe, are you
I'm putting it
religious?
on your guys'
Yes.
moral fabric.
Can I
all of
answer-
you guys that have
Can
this
I ask you a
subjective
question?
moral
I'd
fabric.
like to ask you a question, Vibe. If God told you that you, for whatever reason, had to murder your entire family and all of your friends, would you do it? Because God said so.
It's a contradiction.
No, I mean, it's a great
Would you
question,
do
right?
it?
Because
No, no,
first
if God-
off,
if God-
I started
wait,
this conversation off saying I'm removing God from the whole thing, and you're coming back and attacking
Yeah,
as
I'm
God.
putting God
And
on
you
it.
know what?
This is
There actually is a story in the Bible that talks about this exact same thing.
I know. I'm
And
aware of it.
you
I
know
brought it
what?
up earlier.
And you know what the answer is, but it's irrelevant to the question I asked you, because even in the beginning of my conversation, I removed that. So I don't even understand why you're coming back with that,
Well,
because
I
I'm not
answered
even
your
trying to
question,
make
so
a
I'm
religious
wondering-
argument. I'm actually
No,
testing
but
your morals,
I'm
and you're coming
asking you-
back
yeah, and
with
you just
something
heard
I
it.
already removed.
And you just heard my argument, so I'm just asking you a question. What would you do?
Your question's irrelevant because he already seated God, though.
He
Charlie,
said you would, because you'd kill the family, because God said so.
No, you wouldn't kill the family because God wouldn't tell you to do that.
I don't know.
But if
man.
you
I
admit
feel
that
like God
morals
has
come from
said
God, you have to
people-
admit that morality is
Yeah, yeah,
arbitrary.
like if
and
God
God
told-
could just
like
tell
if-
you to do horrible things.
You're
and
right.
it's wrong.
No, I love how
One at a
specifically-
time.
I
I'm
wouldn't
not
say that
going
question.
to ask
God wouldn't
again
say that.
for you not to talk over each other, because all it sounds like is to everyone else. One at a time, please. Vibe, were you done with your thought?
I mean, I just want to, I'll finish the thought with this, right? I asked you a question. I said, I want to remove religion from this. I just want to test your guys' moral standards on how you would attack a problem with your moral standards, your subjective moral standards. How would you attack a problem like that?
So do you want to see like me and Charlie have that discussion we had earlier about AI, like but applying it to this scenario? Is that what you're asking?
My whole thing is that your hypothetical is ridiculous.
Sure.
I'm never going to have.
If you
the
guys want to have a
ability
discussion on whether humanity should
Saying
end or
it's
not, I
ridiculous
mean,
is not an
that's
argument.
where I'm coming
See,
from,
the
and that's
thing
the
is
whole
that-
problem with the debate.
Vibe, listen to me. Your hypothetical is ridiculous. I'm never going to have
That's
the
not an
ability
argument.
to kill 2 billion people. I'm never going to have the
Hypotheticals
ability
are
to kill
always
2
ridiculous.
billion
It's
people.
only testing.
No, they don't have to be.
Then answer my hypothetical about God, because that's also to you.
It's a
ridiculous
logical contradiction from
hypothetical.
our worldview. Do you not get that?
You're just obfuscating. Like, I
I'm not
mean,
complaining.
No,
Charlie,
because
would you believe in God if
That
he
would
existed?
be it would be like if I was red and you said, yeah, but what if you were blue? But I'm not, right? So I like, yeah,
Well,
it's
yeah, Vibe asked me a
hypothetical, but I'm
ridiculous
not,
question. It's a
right? And it's
hypothetical.
impossible for me to be not. It would be completely off.
Please,
Well,
I'll explain.
both
Charlie,
both
Charlie, I'll explain.
hypotheticals were
I'll bite her
ridiculous and
bullet. I'll
impossible.
say yes. If it was God and I knew it wasn't a demonic delusion and it was in fact God, sure, I'd kill my family. What?
yeah, and I already
That's why
mentioned that,
morality is
we have that
arbitrary to
story in the
religious
Bible. And what happens?
No, that's a
He actually
stupid
says,
argument.
I just was testing
No,
you.
you just
I'm not
proved it
gonna let that
100%.
happen.
Okay, well, I just tested you.
How is there
So-
objective
Hold on,
morality
Charlie, I'll
if
explain
murdering
why
your
it's wrong.
family is
So,
optional
you
in the
guys
morality
failed.
scale?
I got
Failed.
Time.
Real quick, Charlie, I'll
Please.
explain the problem with your hypothetical. Let's just assume for a sec my worldview is that aliens cannot exist. They cannot exist. And you looked at me and
Okay.
goes, but would you believe in aliens if they existed? But my worldview is they can't exist. So
I
it's a
mean,
logical
Adam, he did the
contradiction from
same
my
thing
own
to me.
worldview. It's a logical
He did the
impossibility.
same thing to me.
Well, and I wanna
No, he
just
didn't.
address
It's
what
not logically
It's
impossible.
a logical
for that to happen.
impossibility to know that to that situation
I'm
you
never
outlined is
going
also
to
It's
logically
not logically.
impossible.
Yes,
Where's
My
the
bad.
contradiction?
I don't.
Where's the
I
contradiction?
cannot read the future, man.
Where's the
Okay,
contradiction?
so what if we apply it to something of today?
Dude, I'm not an
Hold on.
oracle.
Hold
That
on.
is-
No,
that
there's
is
no
a fact.
contradiction, so
That
it's
is
not
a
logically
fact.
impossible.
I cannot see the future. It is
That's
logically
true, yes.
impossible, dude. I cannot see the future and know for certain this would save humanity. They're
What
both-
does it mean for something to be logically possible, Charlie?
that it could happen? He said if you could see the future and know that you needed to kill 2 billion people, that's
No,
not
no.
possible.
Within the
I cannot
hypothetical,
see the
he's
future,
granting
bro.
you knowledge. There's nothing there's nothing that's illogical
Okay,
about
well,
his
I have
hypothetical
granted
whatsoever.
5 knowledge. I have granted 5 knowledge. God said, "Kill your family." There it is. I
That
granted
is a
the knowledge.
contradiction of
Yeah, but
itself. It
answer his
defies the
question
nature
first.
of God.
I granted
Answer
the
his
knowledge.
question.
Why? God can't
An-
talk to you.
No, it contradicts the
That's
nature of God.
Closed.
I'd like to ask Charlie a question, if that's all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
go
Is
ahead.
that okay? Perfect. So you appealed to the UN, saying that the UN is somewhat of an arbiter of morality. Right now, do you accept the UN's definition of genocide?
Yes.
Sure, why not?
And you're pro-choice, yeah?
Yeah, obviously.
Huh.
Yeah.
So according to this, according to the UN definition of genocide, Planned Parenthood is committing genocide on black people in the state of New York, right? You cannot be pro both. Either you're against genocide or you're pro-choice. So can you please decide which one you want to be? Because according to the
I don't
UN
think that the
definition,
UN has
they
decided
are
that, that
Just square that circle. Like, say that definition.
like
You can't
they've
just drop
not-
that.
they've not like decided that fetuses are.
So here, I'll quickly read it off. So Planned
alive. They're
Parenthood's
not live.
disproportionate concentration of abortion services in black and minority neighborhoods in New York, combined with the historic eugenic views of its founder, with the resulting high abortion rates that prevent births within these communities, satisfies the UN definition of genocide as the deliberate destruction, in part, of a racial group through the measures intended to prevent births.
Where are you reading that from?
I'm going
Because
to
it's actually misinformation about the
will-
eugenic views
I
of
will-
the founder. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Charlie.
Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist, dude. What are you talking
That's a
about?
fact.
He wasn't. You don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead,
Can I
Charlie.
answer? Can I answer?
Margaret, you read her fucking writing, Margaret Sanger.
Since you guys can't unfuck yourself, I will read off the chat because they send me money to tolerate their words. If your pet was old, incapacitated, and dying in pain, is it moral to take it to
This person can't type. The veterinarian.
I'm guessing
Veterination.
guessing the veterinarian for death. I know sometimes, like when I send super chats to people, especially from the phone, it like auto corrects my words in a weird way to where I can't even like it's weird. So I forgive these. But yeah, is it moral to take it to the vet?
We're not answering that question until he sends it back with proper fucking English so we can understand what he
Yes,
said.
it's moral.
Yeah, it's moral to do so.
Yes, and Sarah, another $10 in order for us to answer that.
Anyway,
Alamo says the utilitarian dilemma: is it moral to harm a few for the benefit of many? This is the trolley question, isn't it? Personally, deontologists have a better answer because their moral system is based on duties regardless of consequences.
Okay.
Yeah, but
No
that
thoughts?
regardless of consequences part can get pretty fucked up.
I don't feel like I
I
got
don't think I would blindly accept it.
at
No.
all about the whole genocide thing.
So
go ahead,
I
Charlie.
would say to you, Stephen Smith, there are absolutely instances in which, specifically Black and indigenous women in the U.S. have been, without their consent, sterilized, or like forced to abort or encouraged to abort. And I would say that those, obviously, yes, are genocidal in nature. However, would we put the onus on would we blame Planned Parenthood for that? No, because Planned Parenthood, only provides abortions to people who want to get them. It's a service that you can use or you do not have to use. You can choose to have a child or you can choose not to have a child. And also they provide just a great deal of services that, help people get pregnant and give birth. And they provide like
Babies are
vaginal or
killed in
gynecological
the
care.
womb than anywhere else in New York, right?
There's actually more black babies
in the
born
womb
than born in New York City.
are more in danger than once they're outside of the womb, right?
Okay, yes, by the choice of their mothers.
Yes. So by the
That's
choice,
not genocidal. I do not
It's
believe
still
that
being
life begins
it
at
does not matter
conception.
who's making the choice. That's still genocide.
I do not believe that life begins at conception.
Okay,
So
got it.
I
So then
would-
if we
I would
decided that
disagree
no more
upon
Native American
your-
children could ever be born and we aborted all of them, right? That wouldn't be genocide, right? We didn't
Yes,
kill
it
we
would
didn't
be.
kill
You're
anyone.
forcing
We
them.
just
You made that
aborted.
distinction already.
Abort is like, yes, that is
You-
genocidal.
You guys get that consent is the hinge upon which morality turns, right?
Why
Like,
does somebody get to consent to murder another person? That makes no sense.
Because that person's growing inside of them sometimes.
Oh, great. So I should just be able to like kill a baby because it's dependent.
If it's growing inside of you, yeah, actually.
That doesn't
is
logically
it a
follow.
human or not?
That actually doesn't logically follow. You're gonna have to justify that a little further. Just because it's dependent does not justify killing it. Sorry, no.
Yeah,
That's
I
an
think that
assertion.
you don't owe the fetus your body.
Okay,
I
that's an
don't believe
assertion.
that.
Is
so.
it a human?
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
I think
Justify
that
it.
if it cannot survive outside of the womb, it's not a person yet.
Okay, got it. So a 1 week old baby is not cannot survive outside.
What about
cannot
a
survive
child
outside of the
born
womb
with
unattended?
microcephaly? So that's where their brain doesn't form. There's just water inside their skull, right? They have no consciousness, right? Do I have the right to kill them because they have no consciousness?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question?
So there are people that are born with a condition called hydrocephaly. This is where their brains do not develop properly. They have water inside their skull rather than the brain. So they have absolutely no consciousness. They have a brain stem so they can react to stimuli, but they have no brain, right?
But they've been born.
Does anyone have the right to murder them because they have no consciousness? Are they a person?
I mean, I think that like being brain dead, that is actually
No, they're not brain dead. They're not brain dead. It's different.
So they don't have consciousness.
Practically they are, though.
They do
They have
not,
no
cannot
consciousness. They
think.
have no brain. They have no brain.
Yeah.
They are, forgive my terminology, please. I'm not trying to be rude. But
No,
if
that's-
we were to call them, you know how people call people vegetables? That is essentially what we are saying, is that there's not
To
going
some
to be
degree,
any
yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's also like a very difficult situation that people get put in all the time when their loved ones, you know, are medically brain dead. What do we do in that situation?
Wouldn't it
depends upon the family. However, this is a person that has been born.
Exactly.
You wouldn't your empathy wouldn't your
So
empathy
this is why I'm
speak
using
to
this, because you said that you don't believe that life begins at conception, but I'm
So
pretty sure you would agree that these people are.
If
right?
I gave birth to a child and the
With
doctors told me that there is no brain activity, this child will never have brain
There's
activity.
a brain
This child
stem,
will
so
never
there is
have
brain
a thought.
activity.
But it's
There's
not
no
going to
brain
be any
activity.
thoughts. This
Wait,
person is
so
not going
you can
to
shine a light and they will react to it. They have some level of like cognition, but they don't have consciousness because they don't have a brain.
have consciousness.
They definitely don't have consciousness
I mean,
because they lack a
would
brain.
I would personally make the decision to
Well, you just said they had part of a brain.
You have a brain stem. They can
Brain
react to
stem.
stimuli.
Okay, so
They have a
I
brain
would
stem, but no brain.
I would view that person as functionally dead. And I would be devastated and traumatized and horrified, but I would be like, okay, well, there's no reason, you know, to allow this being to
Yeah, if there's not a conscious experience, it's just a body, right?
it would be selfish of me to force this
They
person
are
to continue
enjoying
to be alive.
life. They are experiencing pain. They can show a number of things. They just don't.
Wait,
have
if they can enjoy life, they're having a conscious experience, right?
Yeah, so how are they enjoying life?
Yeah, what?
Because
So, because of stimulation. So you can stimulate them where they are enjoying their experience, or you can stimulate them where they are
You
suffering.
said they don't have a fucking brain. How are they going to enjoy something without like enjoyment centers of their brain? Brainstem is just like autonomic functions and stuff like that. How are they enjoying things? You're the one using these words.
So it's fairly obvious. I think that we don't need to test whether they've got dopamine in their brain or not. I think it's fairly obvious from the outside perspective.
Well, from
whether
your own
they're
words, if they don't have a
enjoying
brain and they don't have conscious experience, aren't they just a body?
No. So I would encourage you to look into the condition that I'm referring to, which is hydrocephaly. Right? I can put it in the chat if you need.
Yeah, it's
right?
possible you may have
Now-
misrepresented the condition, and we
I
just
would
well,
have
it's the
to,
way you
like, talk
communicated
with
it
a
to us. It
doctor.
doesn't.
I would need to talk with a doctor and understand, you know, like what
I put.
is this
I
person.
What about locked-in syndrome?
Hydrocephaly.
What is locked-in syndrome?
Locked-in syndrome is when somebody's basically trapped inside their own brain. They can't move it. They have basically they have a conscious experience. Their body can only react to stimuli. They're fully conscious in their own brain, but they cannot control. They have no motor function. They can't control anything they're doing. It's all just reaction to stimuli. Can we kill those people?
Again, this would depend entirely upon like discussions with doctors and family members.
Why does the
This
doctor
is
get to
very
decide this?
case to case. Well, the doctor wouldn't decide. The doctor can tell you what this
The doctor
person
would have accurate information about what the experience of the person is, right?
Yes, like is this person going to be like happy? Am I subjecting them to
Are they
misery?
suffering eternally every waking
so
second?
people only who only
You know?
if people are suffering, we can kill them.
I mean,
But hang,
listen, the thing it's like the question, if you have a dog who is extremely old and who has no quality of life, like for instance, my mother very
I
recently
can kill a
had to-
dog anytime I want. I don't care.
awesome, dude.
It's
Okay.
a dog. It's not a person. Like I can just, like, I'm not gonna get arrested if I shoot a dog in the head. Like, it's not gonna happen.
True.
To be fair, there are.
Just love it when the Christians show us how moral they are.
No, but
Oh my God! I know. I don't feel bad for
Wow,
the
you totally got us there, Effigy. Good job.
Crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
Don't tell me for that.
So just for the record,
You know
I
what?
looked at this
Here's-
condition.
here's-
Hang on, guys. Sarah stepped away. I'm in charge. All right, I looked at this
That's
condition,
a little boy
and
with
it seems like
hydrocephaly, right?
Hang
He's
on,
playing
Stephen.
with a book. He has hydrocephaly, so he has no brain.
Yes,
He's
I'm
playing with a
explaining.
book.
I'm making sense of this, okay? Yes. So what I'm communicating is that the way you represented this condition was that there was no brain, there was just water. What I'm looking into now, I see that there is a brain. It's just flowing. There's too much fluid in there, and they can actually treat it by removing the fluid. So it's a totally different thing than what you.
So it's a treatable case. That's crazy.
Part of a brain, but they do not have a fully formed brain, right? So
Are you asking if I would kill my child if they were
Oh
disabled?
my God.
No, I would not kill my
Yeah,
child
see,
if
exactly.
they were disabled. I would
We've gone
raise
down this
them.
rabbit hole for
That is
no
the
fucking
risk that
reason.
you take every time you have a kid. Your child could be disabled. Your child could, need a lot more care than you might be able to provide.
Can I?
And frankly, that's
So
why abortion
consciousness is not an arbiter of like humanity or personhood. Then we can
This
both
child would
agree
be
that this is
conscious.
a human
What are
and
you
it's a person. Yeah, and they are more than likely have a right to life.
This person
Yeah?
is conscious. Disabled people are conscious. What are you
Somebody
talking
with
about?
hydrocephaly is
People
not
with locked-in
Well,
disorder
by that
are
standard, then I
conscious.
can kill dogs because they don't have a conscious experience. They can't make good or right or wrong decisions. They just have reaction to stimuli.
Can I bring up
well,
like a better or different argument for?
Not sure you understand what conscious experience is.
Dogs. Yeah, dogs do have a conscious.
No, they
they're
don't.
sentient.
They can just react to stimuli.
As long as we're talking about this, where do you think that humanity begins?
When the fetus can survive outside of the womb.
You know that goes against like even elementary school textbooks, right? That a fetus is a human. It's a human fetus. That's how
Life begins at conception,
Right.
according to literally all biologists. By
What
the way,
does fetus mean? Just out of curiosity, what does fetus mean? The Latin term fetus. What does it mean?
Before we engage with that one, I want to respond to the point about Adam made. This comes up a lot that like scientists all agree that life begins at conception. This is actually it's a philosophical claim that they're surveyed about. It's not a scientific consensus, as in like there are facts of the matter that they're reporting on. It's that they agree that generally, like from a philosophic perspective, they agree that life begins at conception. That doesn't mean it's not the same thing as saying that it's a scientifically measured thing. To be clear.
no, I'm not saying it's scientific measure. I'm saying like, but according to all biological markers of what we would consider life, conception is when human life
That's a
begins.
different claim than what you're referencing when you reference that science survey.
Again, so
No, I'm not
I
saying-
feel,
I'm not saying
I feel
scientists
that if
all
the
claim
fetus
that
cannot
personhood begins at
survive
conception.
outside of the
If
womb,
so-
I do not believe it does not have.
When biologists want to
I'm just
study
saying
human
that
life
definition
from
of
beginning
life,
to
just so
end,
that we can agree what the definition of life is.
Yeah, and we
Right.
start,
Can you read
we
that
start with
definition
the
for me
egg and the
just
sperm,
we
and
agree?
then they join together, create an embryo.
no,
and it grows and grows and
specifically
grows
at
until it pops out.
conception, because that's when the unique
It doesn't
DNA
begin
is.
at conception, man.
It does.
Or-
It literally
no,
does.
It really does. Here's the definition of life: the property or quality that distinguishes living organisms from dead organisms and inanimate matter,
Yeah.
manifested in functions such as metabolism, growth, reproduction, and response to stimuli or adaptations to the environment, originating from within the organism. Now,
Yeah, plants fall into
a
this.
fetus meets this. Someone
Plants
with
are alive.
hydrocephaly meets this.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Plants are
more
alive
than-
also, so this doesn't
But I
really tell us
still
much,
step
right?
on grass.
It
like,
tells
that's
us they're
the thing.
alive.
I'm more than happy to
Yeah, I step
murder.
on grass.
Pretty sure that you'd be
You're a
willing
monster, Ryan.
I know.
What?
Well,
I didn't
look.
hear the British guy.
Make fun of him for his accent. I do it constantly.
Go ahead, Steven.
Sorry, sorry. I've been drinking.
That's okay.
You're not doing it right if you're not drinking.
Cheers.
You know, I just started drinking, so I was sober during the debate.
Say, this is
Me
the best
too.
time for it.
But last time I
But,
got overstimulated. I was too stressed out.
I guess what we're trying to say is that if a biologist wants to study human life from beginning to end, they're going to start at conception, like of an individual. If they're like, okay, we want to empirically study this individual's entire life, they're going to
Yeah,
start
sure.
at the moment
Absolutely.
of conception.
That's the cycle
Right.
of life.
So they're studying a human person. So
Mhm.
why don't human rights apply to humans in the fetal stage of development?
I would say that it is because if the fetus cannot survive outside of the mother, it is not yet a viable human. It is still
so
a part of the
Wait.
mother. It
Let
is
me
still
handle
a
this
part
real
of the
quick.
mother.
But like a 1 week old infant can't survive
wants to
without its
smell it.
mother either, or without a
Survive outside
caretaker.
of the womb.
At
It
20
can survive outside of the
conception, the
womb.
But
It's
you're the
like
one
a-
making that distinction.
birth,
Nobody else does.
and they can survive outside of their mother. Yeah,
I feel like
Because you're trying to use
most-
biological definitions to take away people's rights to autonomy. That's why you fucking
I
have
feel like most
it.
So one at a time, please.
You
One at a time.
destroy the autonomy to a baby, you stupid fuck.
Everybody shut up for a
Uh-huh.
sec.
You guys,
One
you
person
guys
at a
just
time
hate
talk.
that chicks get to decide who comes into the world. You just hate it.
It's
You
not
live
their
it.
fucking choice, you douchebag.
Just let them.
It is our choice, actually.
Yeah, it is.
No, actually, it's based on.
You guys want to go back to the world where it's your choice.
Wait, guys,
It's
guys,
your
come
choice.
on, one at a time, please, one at a time. Okay, Sarah's listening to you. Okay, she's gonna start kicking you, motherfuckers.
Steven and Charlie do what they're doing. Steven, keep going. So ask your question to Charlie, or whoever just asked that question to Charlie. So
God,
Charlie
get off
can
this
answer
road.
it.
Back to the original topic.
Well, I mean, technically, if it's just all about, if morality is subjective and it ultimately will come down to force doctrine, then it's your body, our choice.
Oh God, here we go. Stupid force doctrine shit again.
Animals that can use tools, Adam.
But
there are animals that can use tools. Great.
With
What the fuck does that do?
like a gun, you couldn't force me to do whatever you wanted to. And also by that logic, I'm gonna say you don't look like a very strong man, and I'm related to large, strong men. So if you tried to force me to do anything, you would be dead. Like,
Are they stronger than? Are they stronger than a 9mm?
Huh?
Charlie,
Than a what?
Stronger than a 9mm?
What the hell is a 9mm?
He's saying you would shoot your family to aggress on you.
Oh, a 9mm.
No idea what a 9mm is. What the fuck?
What?
Calm down, Steven.
Yeah, of course, gun nuts would be like, oh my God, you don't know what the slang
No
for a
one
gun
can
is.
hear what the thing is.
I do enjoy this guy's combination of accent, mustache, and hair. It's pretty,
Yeah,
it's pretty
he's-
awesome.
No, Eli, make fun of him for being British. I do it every time I talk to him.
When I say British, it's a slur.
Steven, so
Yes,
the thing
yes,
is
yes,
that
being
I
British
don't,
is a slur.
like,
I agree with Ryan there.
Listen, Steven, I might not know what a 9mm is. I know it's a fucking, isn't it a pistol? I don't know. But my dad has a lot of guns, so I don't need to know about it. But Steven, does it ever piss
Steven, we
you
can't
off
hear
that
you.
I can own a gun and you can't?
So I can own a gun legally in the UK.
Oh, what's wrong with your
Steven,
mind?
You're roboting really bad, buddy.
He's got a British mic too.
Got that British Wi-Fi. You got the
Oh
British
man,
mic.
that was a good one.
Where can you go with that gun, Steven? Can you take that gun anywhere? Do you have the right to defend yourself with that gun? I don't
I have the right to read people who send in money.
America, baby.
Is it moral to feed your family from your farm well, with unaliving livestock?
I think that's meant for Charlie.
Why would this be meant for me? I eat meat.
I know.
Is
but
it-
the question
Is it
for
moral
you
to
because
kill
of-
the
yeah.
animal?
I believe the medical term is roast beef.
Yeah, I actually think for you and Ryan, because you and Ryan are making the argument against Eli when Eli was talking about killing dogs, which is fucked up.
again,
Eli,
so-
but
Oh, that was the other. I didn't say the dog thing,
sorry,
but
not Eli, it was Adam. I'm bad at names.
I
Again,
stand
I was
by my
thinking
team.
it's-
I stand
Why
by
is that
anything my
wrong?
teammate says, though.
Why is that wrong though?
I would say that, listen, again, as I brought this up earlier, depending upon the culture and the time period, we humanize various different kinds of animals. So, there are cultures in which cows are sacred, pigs are sacred, and we would never touch them.
Cannot kill
the
cows. We don't like when you kill the cows.
I
Anyway,
just feel that you're wrong.
Charlie.
and there's actually not much the logic in which we determine what animals
I know.
are
I
worthy
just
and
feel
what
that
animals
you're
are
wrong
not.
though.
Like
I feel that you're
we kill pigs, but pigs are slightly more intelligent than dogs. So are octopi. They're
I feel like
slightly-
bacon's
they're more
fucking delicious.
intelligent than dogs, but we kill
Hey.
them anyway.
Yeah, but
And I'm
cows
not an
eat
animal
shit.
rights person, but this does present an interesting, ethical question
Hey.
that I think you guys would have to get a vegan or vegetarian to talk through because I'm the
Okay.
meat eater.
Okay, I was a vegetarian
I'm
for
an
8 years.
omnivore. I'm an
Hey,
omnivore.
Charlie, I want to engage with you on where we left off on our abortion conversation. So I asked
Okay.
you,
Brilliant.
why is it okay to kill a human being in the fetal stages of development, which we determined it was, and you said, well, it's only not okay if it, I'm sorry, outside of its mother's womb, right? Like it's, I got mixed up with my words. If it can't survive outside of the womb, then it's okay to kill it. is what you said, right?
So I would say that yeah, it's I feel that aborting before a fetus can survive outside of the womb is
So do you have a week number? Like if you were to make the legislation, do you have like a based on science?
No, I'm not a doctor.
Well,
They don't come to me to make these laws. They
Well,
go to
okay,
other
fair enough. And I'm not trying to get you a gotcha on there, but let's
Okay.
just say, and I'm not either. I don't know what the exact one is, but let's just say it's like 21 weeks or something. Let's
Sure.
say that at 21, after that, it can survive outside the womb.
1 second. No. My son was born at 20 weeks and he was put in an incubator and he survived just fine.
Beautiful.
Statistically,
Well,
20 is
let's
the
say
lowest on record.
20. Okay,
just
so let's go
fine.
with let's
20,
go with
yeah, that's
20.
fine.
So
Yeah.
so are you saying that at 19 weeks and 6 days at 11:59 at night, once the clock strikes midnight, that there's like a magical moment where this person is now given human rights?
Well, again, I think that these have to be case by case basis, and I do think that, like again, this is like
Well-
kind of like the trans sports argument. I think that like if you treat it as a universal rather than going, okay, let's
Well-
not get into trans sports actually, but like listen, these things are case by case. Obviously, it's
no,
going
no,
to depend
but
on the
we're-
doctor determining if
but
the
we're
child can survive. Like,
Well, look,
past-
we're granting in a certain hypothetical that like there's a consensus of doctors that agree that at 20 weeks we know for absolute fact that they will live outside the womb, and before then it's maybe iffy. Do you see how in your system you're putting the life of somebody down to the minute on a clock? Do you see where that becomes extremely arbitrary? That, you know, because again, the doctors really can't come to an indefinite consensus.
in
It's
the
just
fantasy
any time before then.
hypothetical that you presented, sure,
What is
in the
the-
fantasy hypothetical.
No, but
however-
it's actually kind of real life. I mean, like there's maybe a general medical consensus, but in reality, some babies can survive way sooner than others. But you're
Right.
the one
So my whole
legislating
thing
when
is
their
that-
life can end.
Well, I'm not.
Hang
Hang on. So in
legislating.
real, please.
Well, so
This is
supporting
dependent
legislation.
upon the. This is like again. This is prioritizing the an unborn human over a fully fledged born human being who has loved ones and life experience and a life to live.
So
Now, when
humans'
you- when
value
you-
is dependent
No,
upon
no, no.
the
It's
age.
not based upon their age, but again, this is someone who you are having to, in many ways, destroy their lives to further the life of another person.
What the fuck?
What do you
Okay,
mean
listen
destroy their
to me,
lives?
listen to me. Pregnancy is life-threatening. Pregnancy changes your bodies in extreme ways, and also, if someone has to keep a child, you are also, if they're pregnant, you are taking them out of the job market. You could be ruining them financially, depending upon their personal circumstances.
You should have thought about that before they
So
opened their
child
womb, lady.
sacrifice is justified. So if I sacrifice my child so that I can have a better life, that's justified. Yeah, it's
No,
almost the
it's a living
exact same
thing
thing
that you
as.
Well,
a couple
yeah,
of
but do you
thousand years
understand
ago
that?
where
But like he might have to work less
Let them
hours if he
talk.
didn't have a baby to feed.
Wouldn't that
Wait,
be?
no. I'll answer that
wouldn't
question
that
really
be-
quickly. If a woman is pregnant and if the doctor tells her, if you do not abort this right now, you will die, should you do it?
If you do not abort this
Thank you,
right
Mr. Genius.
now, should you die? Well, first of all, I would say that the doctor should follow the Hippocratic Oath, which means do no harm and take care of both patients. When a doctor is taking care of a pregnant woman, he has two patients on the
He means
list,
let them die.
the mother and the child. So the
Okay, so
doctor's
what-
going to do everything in their power.
Mother,
Hold
child.
on,
Who you-
hold on. You can attempt to save the mother's life, right? You're attempting to by that's what he's saying, by do no harm. He has to save the mother's life, and in order to do so, let's say she has like an ectopic pregnancy or something, that on its nose is very dangerous to the life of the mother. So the doctor's goal is to try to save the life of the mother, even if that an ectopic pregnancy cannot thrive. It won't survive anyways. But
It can be
even
implanted
if
in the
he-
uterus, though.
but even at that,
here's the
even
big
if
issue.
removing the baby, they'll still they're doing it in order to save her life, but they also are removing the baby and will still attempt to do what they
Correct.
can to support the baby in
Correct.
that aspect. It's not just an abort and down the tube you go. It's
Right.
we're going to try to spare both if we can. So
In the
it doesn't follow.
I'm just trying to point out that pretending that everything has the same moral worth in these situations is fucking asinine.
Yeah, you want my answer? Actually, Effigy, you want my answer? No, mom can't kill her baby. Sorry, no.
All humans have the same
We
moral
don't
worth.
have a
What
universal
about a room
for
full of fertilized
morality.
embryos? How do you decide? Do you save in a room full of fertilized embryos?
Hang on, no, I'm sorry, Charlie. Eli, you just said all humans have the same moral worth, right? Can I test that for you?
Sure.
All right. So you have a sadistic choice ahead of you. Your wife is like 3 days pregnant, basically just a clump of cells, and you are given the choice by God that either you choose between your 5-year-old or that clump of cells. Choose one to die or both die. Who do you choose?
Choose one to die
My God
or
would
both
never do
die.
Or both die. Who do you
I
choose?
think that literally no matter which one I choose in that situation, I think it doesn't matter. It's
Are you
tragic.
honestly telling me you would choose the 5-year-old that is standing in front of you rather than the 3D-old clump of cells?
Oh, I think it would be just as tragic either way.
Are
There's
you
a Charlie
telling
card
me
problem
you
at
would
that point.
choose the 5-year-old?
Depends on how smart.
I know you're
I
gonna
would-
wiggle, but everyone's seeing you wiggle right now because this is an
Oh,
obvious
yeah, I'm
fucking
wiggling,
question,
I'm
man.
wiggling.
Here, you want to pose
I
it to
would
me?
Wiggle,
choose-
wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
I would choose if I had to choose or they both die. Again, this is such an arbitrary question, but I would say
No, I mean, it's a sadistic
probably,
choice. I granted that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
Come on, you choose
sadistic
the 5-year-old.
choice.
Come on.
Fine, if I'm being completely honest, yeah, I guess I would choose the one that like probably has like, soccer practice tomorrow or whatever. But it's
So true.
again, like here's the thing. I'm doing that in
Yeah, why would
intellectual.
you choose the one that?
Or no,
you
I'm
didn't
sorry.
use?
We know that
To
there's
live.
moral
Sorry, no,
Yeah.
not to die. To live. Now, here's what I'm doing. I heard Charlie earlier say that's a ridiculous hypothetical. Is what she
Yeah.
didn't want to answer it. I'm answering it out of good faith,
Yeah.
but it's equally as tragic, and it doesn't make a difference to me. I do see them as equal. Just because you put me in a forced
Then what
dichotomy,
depends
that
upon
doesn't
your
make any
choice?
sense.
If
Well,
it's
hold on,
choice-
I'll explain. I
And let me.
I
I'll
appreciate
give
you
it.
answering in good faith.
I'll give it back to you in just a moment. But chat, you have 13 minutes to get 8 more of those
No.
super chats in, or we all go home. And you
It-
know I love to end this show if you don't pay up. So figure it out. And then also, can Ryan tell us more about how great Margaret Sanger was?
Yeah, I can. So to be clear, my statement wasn't that Margaret Sanger is like an amazing person or whatever. But my claim is that there's a misrepresentation of her views regarding eugenics and black people and stuff. Like there's a quote by her that people always attribute as like implying like genocidal intent. And it's just completely out of context. Like she's talking with like black leaders at the time about how to get birth control, like how to make sure that people have access to birth control. And she is trying to step out in front of the allegations that people are assuming, or people have now tarnished her name with, right? He's trying to step out and say, hey, we want to make sure that people don't think that we're just trying to like do eugenics in these communities. So we need to make sure that like people understand that's not what's going on here. She's communicating with black leaders to explain that to people.
So
And that's the quote that people are referencing is about that conversation.
The most
Why are
merciful
abortion-
thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Margaret Sanger, Woman in the New Race,
Why
1920.
are abortion clinics disproportionately in black neighborhoods, and they always have been? And why is this a Planned Parenthood policy if they are not eugenicists trying to effectively genocide, according to the UN definition?
So because black people are more likely to be poor, so they're more likely to need an abortion in the first place.
That still doesn't explain why they are specifically
Man, because
targeted
having a kid
with
is fucking
abortion clinics.
expensive, bro. Having a kid is expensive.
Well, real quick, I want to get back to what
Hold on,
Effigy was saying.
Time out. Everywhere else in the world, in the poorest,
Yeah, the poorest people have the most amount of kids.
have the most amount of kids. How's that work? What the fuck?
No, but the poorest people in America are more likely to seek out an abortion, right?
Yeah, because of propaganda.
That's a
maybe,
really
marketing?
dumb argument
you-
because I mean, even myself, like I'm a single mom, and I still just figure it the fuck out. I think that's
Okay, that's fine, but we're not. But Sarah, we're not talking about whether or not people figure it out. We're talking about
Sarah,
whether or not
why
they
didn't you
seek an
just
abortion.
throw them into a river with a brick on the bottom of their feet?
So,
Like, what the
so
heck?
just to be clear, regardless of all of your moral pearl clutching, all of the moral pearl clutching going on right now, what I'm saying is that these like black people are more likely to seek an abortion.
It's not moral
That's a fact.
pearl clutching because you literally just said that in the poorest countries of the world, people don't go to abortion. Like
Okay, but they don't have access. They don't have access to birth control and abortions like they do here.
Sean, move your mic closer to your mouth.
I have a really great solution. It's called closure.
Wasn't it like a big thing that we were like sending like
All right,
birth
real quick,
control and
Effigy,
condoms
just
places?
the problem with Effigy's argument.
Wait. I want to go.
If you're gonna ask me the burning IVF clinic, I can
I'm
answer
also
the
about to
question.
leave,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like this is like.
Do you think it's gonna trip me up? Go for it.
Anyway, I'm
feel like you're
pro-abortion.
Did I
I
say my
love
first job?
abortion.
Well, I think the meat of the argument boils down to not necessarily whether abortion is good or bad. I think it boils down to if morality is objective, like an objective standard that we could apply across the board, then questions such as this would already have an answer, right? And because the fact that abortion stands left and right the way it is, it's almost like proof in the pudding that morality is not like you apply morality subjectively based on how you feel about. So just like I said before, like abortion, like you are killing something that is objective. We know that. Whereas why you do it, how you feel about it, so on and so forth, that's subjective. And now that's kind of like yeah.
Well, the thing is, again, like just because there's disagreements on whether there is an objective standard or what the objective standard is, isn't necessarily a disproof of the moral standard itself. So, you know, I think that just because people have subjective opinions on, you know, when does a human life begin? When is it okay to have an abortion? Is it ever okay to have an abortion? You know, there's always going to be disagreements. There's always going to be subjective opinions, but we ought not form our morality around subjective opinions, because at that point, that's all you have. And you don't have a standard by which to determine these things. With an objective standard, you can say that murder is evil, abortion is murder. We ought not do that. It's a very clear, decisive thing.
Eli,
Do you think people thought murder was okay before they had religions?
The Orthodox Christianity.
Religions have been around forever.
You chose it. You made the decision. You subjectively chose it and decided that one was the real and good and big one.
You know, again, I think that that's loaded.
You are appealing to God.
I think that's loaded.
Facts and logic.
Well,
anyway, okay. I gotta go.
Don't touch Shapiro us. That's just low tier.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you for debating with me.
Bye. I had fun. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Charlie. Have a wonderful
Bye,
evening.
Charlie.
Whose mic is somebody's mic is popping and
no
it's really
think it's Jeff.
I think it is too, Jeff. Do you have
I
your
just muted. It's not me.
it's
Jeff.
yeah, it's like it's popping or something.
All right, but Jeff,
I want to wait real quick. I want to respond to what Charlie said before, you know, that she left. In a
I
way,
wouldn't.
Oh.
Just because she's not here to defend herself.
No, fair enough. But I
Well,
mean, just
somebody else can take Effigy. I'm sure you are okay with speaking
Yeah,
on her
and I have a
behalf,
few
Ryan,
things-
as well.
Mm-hmm. And I want to address a few things that Effigy said too, especially since he put me on the spot with that admittedly, ridiculous.
I just have a
hypothetical.
question for Effigy that I think Eli would like to hear as well.
Yeah, bring it on, and then we'll all discuss it.
Actually, before you do that, Eli, the chat, you have 7 minutes to get 8 more super chats in, or else I just shut it all down and we go home. So you figure out what you want to do, and I'll play accordingly. But don't fuck with the goal. You guys know I don't like it when you don't complete the goals, and I gave you plenty of time. Okay, Eli, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that the subjective choice, yeah, we all have a choice to believe in what we do, but coming like the epistemological and justifying means, like it was a determination through logic and through reasoning, which my opponents utilized, but then never concluded with a standard. I was in the same predicament as them, applied logic and reasoning, and actually found Christianity. To deny it would be a denial of logic. It would be the impossibility of the contrary. It would be illogical. And I think that what, a lot of Christian argumentation these days, especially with things like the transcendental argument for God, it's dispelling this notion that atheists have held and secularists have held for so long, that all Christianity is a big cope, and that once you put on your big brain fedora and start using logic and philosophy, you break through the chains that theism has put on you. And I would say that actually it's the opposite, that, you know, it's the most logical position based on objective reality to hold at least a theistic position, and then you get into theological debates about why it's the Christian God. Now, to what Effigy said,
as long as
I want
objective reality means that minds can exist without brains.
Well, wait, what? As long as
You're the one that brought up tag. I said, yeah, we believe in objective reality as long as that includes minds existing without brains.
You can't have any of the presuppositional categories that you rely on to make sentences and do logic without it being grounded in a God.
Without a God, I know, I got it. Yeah,
right.
I've heard it 1,000
And
times. I've heard it since the early
this goes real
2000s.
quick. No. Before it blows up, the last thing I want to say is when he made that hypothetical. We'll decide that. He made the hypothetical to me about if God asked me to choose between these two kids, and if God did a flood, how is that not immoral or genocide? What you're missing the point of our worldview is that these things, morality and good, is grounded within God. So even if I made that choice between the two kids, if it literally is God and not a demonic delusion, and God is the source of all good, there is no good that exists absent him, then I made a good decision, and the flood was good.
Then good is completely arbitrary because it is based in a subject, that subject being God, and we know that God can change his mind, right?
The Parker and Danny argument. Yeah, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. No, you're still not understanding that
God is the good. It's part of his ontology.
The thing in question is grounded within God.
No, I know you guys like to bootstrap all this shit onto your fictional character, but that's not how it fucking works.
You're gonna tell us how God works?
You guys are sitting here trying to give us these examples when we just can sit here and point to like well-known stories in the Bible. It's like, oh well, what about killing all these people? You guys literally have a story where you think killing the entire population of the world was moral.
If God did it, then it's moral.
Because they were bad. Yeah, there you go. Because God did it, right? So you admit that arbitrarily, whatever God does is decided to be moral. Therefore, he could tell you to do the most cruel,
this is like so low
shit,
tier, dude.
and you will still. No, it's not.
It's
exactly
low
what
IQ.
is
It's very low IQ. You're not able to steelman our position. It's a very low Q argument. Our worldview dictates.
This is the code. This is what happens.
Your argument is just an argument from incredulity, dude. It's fallacious.
I'm trying to teach you something.
Effigy, your argument's fallacious. It's
no,
just,
you don't
if
get
I
to,
was
you don't
God,
get to there and special
the
plead your
genocide of
God
the
into
world.
existence to have all the traits you need to avoid arguments. It's fucking stupid, and I'm sick of Christians doing it.
No, I'm sick of you fucking people being
God into existence. Give him every trait you need to avoid every fucking argument. Oh, he's timeless, but he can still do shit. Yeah, you magic up a character.
You know, I'm fucking sick of you fucking atheists and agnostics being like, if I was God, I wouldn't have done the genocide and the flood. It's like, that's just an argument from incredulity. I don't want to hear your fucking fallacious arguments.
You're the one that's saying it's all good.
I'm about to leave. I just want to give a statement.
Pause, everyone. You have 2 minutes, and I'm happy to go to bed. Although I did just make another cup of coffee. I mean, I figured this would be a good night, but the chat doesn't seem to want to do anything about it. So we could just sit here. Well, they can't boot you. They can boot everyone else though if they don't like.
I'm probably about to
anyone
leave
else
either
on the
way.
phone.
Do you mind if I make like a quick, very short statement?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah. So I mean, bottom line, you don't need a cosmic ruler to do morality. You just need the guts to care about people, the brains to think about people, and the humility to change when you're wrong. That's it. And if you liked watching me make that case, smash that sub button on youtube.com/@radicalcoder. Okay, that's where a lot of debates that you may have come across me on. If you're new here, obviously you subscribe and like the Sarah as well. But definitely go check out Radical Coder. We're a very growing community. I'm getting closer and closer and closer to 1,000 subs. I'm very excited about that milestone. I don't know what I'm gonna do to celebrate, but Umbreon will be there. So much love to Sarah and everyone here. Thank you all for participating. I apologize to Eli and Adam for absolutely demolishing your worldview, but I appreciate you taking it on the nose.
Well, in the spirit of good faith and Christian charitability, Ryan, I will add a sub to your channel, and I hope to see you get to 1,000.
Yeah, I
appreciate
like
that.
watching you spurg. It's fun.
I do want to say, Ryan,
that.
I completely disagree with your
forgive us, forgive.
worldview, and I disagree with you doing any destroying. But I didn't know how to feel about you in my first few interactions, seeing you around. But after this debate, I think you're very good faith, and that goes a long way.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Of
Thank you
course.
so much, guys. Be safe.
Bye, Ryan. Okay, so we cannot move on. I'm not moving on. We're going to sit here quietly, every single one of us. You have 22 seconds.